Good morning.
As we gather today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of this committee and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Does anyone have any pecuniary or financial interest to declare? Haven't seen them. Motion for the minutes of the previous meeting.
Moved by Maureen McNell and second by Carol Levine. Motion to approve the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held on February 24th, 2025, open and closed sessions.
Discussion, questions? All those in favor?
I have a question.
Question?
I wasn't there.
Oh, sorry.
All those in favor? Carried. And our first delegation, Nicole.
Good morning, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I'm representing the library, so I didn't wear green at work. Our library t-shirt, if you guys all seen this, I'm just going to have to show you. It says, "A damn fine library." And this little guy is named Haggerty the Beaver. He was named by a contest. So Kate and I are representing today. Thank you very much for having us. These are for sale, by the way. You should all think about getting. Okay, so the 2025 budget, I did prepare, I think you guys all have the documents here. I prepared a little snapshot of us and what we did in the past year, and then we've got the budget, our proposed budget for the year. So just very quickly, I'll just point out in our annual report and statistics that we really had a banner year in a lot of ways, but certainly in terms of fundraising, we took on a few totally new fundraising initiatives, the t-shirts being one. We published a cookbook. That was another fundraising initiative, and we also garnered quite a few donations from the community last year. They were very generous, which was amazing. We added new things to the library, like a 3D printer, which has been bringing a lot of people through our doors and generating a lot of interest. And as you can see from the statistics, we are very well used, and we are growing every single year. I mean, last year alone, we had over 100 new patrons. So that's people that have never had a library card in this community before, which in a small community, I mean, that alone is impressive. 40 visits a day, almost 20,000 items borrowed last year. And as always, I love to see the school kids come through. So more than 2,000 visits from school children. And, for those of you who wonder what we do all day, in addition to putting 8 stamps on books, we do a lot, including, over 100 programs last year that we ran with more than 1,000 people attending. So lots of stuff, good stuff going on at the library last year. It was a very successful year for us in a lot of different ways. And we put a little snapshot of some quotes. These are things that, I could attribute names, but we hear these things a lot. So I just wanted to give you a flavor of what people say about us and what they think of the library. So that was us last year. I don't know if anyone has any questions about what we were up to. I can get into the numbers. So the first thing you will see off the top is that we are asking the township for an increase of $10,000 approximately over last year, and I will get into that as we go through the numbers of where that's coming from and what we are doing as well to raise funds ourselves. So in addition to the municipal, if you're looking on the far right hand side, that's the 2025 proposed budget, and then before that you'll see our budget and actuals for 2024. That far right hand budget numbers there, you'll see that in addition to the municipal operating grant, the other numbers in revenue stay fairly. The provincial grants haven't changed for decades, etc. The one area where we do have some control is in our self-generated revenue, which last year you'll see we had budgeted for $15,000, which was an increase over the 2023, but we blew that out of the water through our various initiatives, and including some larger donations from individuals. So we have increased our goal from $15,000 of a goal last year to $20,000 in self-generated revenue this year. As well, you'll see that our Friends of the Library group is stepping up in their own way, and right off the bat, they've committed $2,000 to help support our youth program and other library needs. And the grant side of things, I just want to point out where it says special project grants and it says 0 for this year. We do not have any special grants coming down the pipes. We're planning to do some more applications in 2025, hopefully, but that was a carryover from our strategic planning grant that we had, and that project was completed in 2024. And those other numbers more or less stay the same. One area you'll notice a difference is the summer job service grant. So we had, for many years, been getting a summer student and receiving that grant. They cover half of the student's wages. But we have chosen to, rather than have a summer student for 30 hours a week, we're spreading that funding out over the course of the whole year to help fill staffing gaps, particularly on Saturdays. So we have a casual part-timer who works 10 hours a week now and covers the gaps, particularly on Saturdays when we need to have 2 people in the building for security purposes. So I'll talk about that a little further down the way here. So that's the revenue side of things. And the reason it looks like quite a bit less than prior years strictly because of that special project grant that won't be there this year. We're not doing any specific kind of project at this point. So on the expense side, basically you can see there it's the wages and salary line. We're increasing it by $15,000 over our actual for last year, and that is primarily to increase the librarians' hours. We have, over the past few years, and I think you've heard me talk about this before, part of our strategic plan is to increase the librarian position from a part-time to a full-time position. And so we've been gradually adding a few hours every year to that position to build it up to full-time. So this year, the librarian position will be 32 hours a week. So we're almost at full-time. And then as well, that also includes a cost of living increase for all the wages to it's currently set at 3%, but we will match whatever the township's cost of living increases. So last year it was 3%, so that's what we built into the budget. If its townships comes in at less than that, then we'll dial our increase back as well. But as it stands, what you're looking at is the 3% cost of living increase and additional hours for the librarian, bringing my position up to 32 hours a week this year. Other operating, if we jump down to operating expenses, accounting and legal is what you see is a reflection of what we paid actual in 2024, plus the purchase of accounting software, QuickBooks, that the accountant recommended we start using because we have very antiquated software and they couldn't talk to it anymore. Their systems couldn't talk to our accounting software anymore, so we had to upgrade. It's a subscription-based service from here on in, which is the way they all are now. And then we've got a slight increase to advertising and promotions, and that primarily is an increase to our web hosting services. They're coming out of the States, and with the dollar having dropped, it's increased our prices. And as soon as that contract ends next year, we'll be moving to a Canadian host. At the time, it was the most economical. That is shifting. A lot of these other numbers are essentially staying the same. They're just reflective of the actuals. Moving to the second page now. you'll see on total material expenses, so that is the amount that we spend on books and magazines and equipment and all the things that we lend out to patrons. And there's a modest increase over the previous year. The 10.8, the reason it looks like we didn't spend the full amount is because of the postal strike. A lot of our orders didn't get processed for a long time after, and so those bills did not come in 2024. They rolled in 2025. So that's why it looks like we underspent. It was just a matter of circumstances. We are, in fact, increasing that budget line in 2025 modestly in accordance with our strategic planning process and the board, and we have decided that we need to be increasing the book budget slightly because the cost of books has gone up so much in the past few years that if we don't, it means we're buying less books. You know, it's just a matter of economics. We have to continue to buy enough books to fill the shelves every year. So that just matches up with what we're hoping to do in the strat plan to increase our holdings. The insurance is just a reflection of the previous year. I'm just going down the line here, what else I can tell you. Interest in bank charges, that looks like a big jump, and that's because we installed a Square payment system in 2024, and they take a small service fee every time we do a transaction. However, having that Square system has allowed us to vastly increase our sales and our donations, because when people come to the desk now, they might want to give money, but all they have is a credit card, and in the past we just didn't have any ability to do that. Now they can give a donation or buy $30 in news books and pay for it, and that is, so you see that reflected in how well we did in fundraising. We did more and more, much more than offset the increase on the bank charges. I'm looking here. Computer expense is, we have to buy, most of our computers, particularly the staff computers, are over 10 years old and they are failing. We've had a lot of trouble with them, so we have to get a couple of computers before they break down completely. And so that's what that cost is. And everything else is basically just status quo and holding the line, despite the fact that the costs have increased greatly in all of the supplies we buy and everything. We're just trying to keep those costs as low as possible. So what you'll see at the very bottom there, net income, is a deficit of $8,071. And basically last year we had a very good year. You see that we have revenue of $8,200. So we opted to reinvest that in the library and in the things that we're planning to achieve this year in terms of purchase and staffing and so forth. So the deficit is covered by our accumulated net revenue from the previous year. And that's where, so I mean, and just in summation, we are a very active library, a very well-used library, and I think it's a township asset that gives every day, not 7 days a week, but certainly 5 days a week to the community all year and benefits people, and I think it's something that we should all be really proud of. I'm very proud of it, and what the services that we can offer and how we can help people, especially now there's a lot of challenges and financial challenges, and we're a safe public space for people to come and to get things like books and entertainment and sports equipment without having to pay for it. So it's a really well-used service, and I thank all of you for your support and seeing the value of the library and what we do. That's my legend. Questions?
Thank you. Questions? Wow. I have a couple. So just for council, so they know, the $127,000 that says at the top, municipal operating grant, that also includes 2 expenses in the operating expense. So that includes the insurance and the accounting fees. Okay, so basically the net effect is $118,000. Just so everyone's aware of that. Did you say you had a loss of $8,200?
No, last year, we had a gain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this year, it looks, we're operating at the bottom line there at net income. It's a deficit of, 8,000, but that's being offset by last year's revenue.
Yeah, so that would have went into your bank balance, right?
Correct.
So last year, your bank balance at the end of the year was $39,855.
Yes, that's the accumulated net revenue over the course of our operations.
So that 39 would have increased at the end of this year, right? Or the end of 2024?
At the end of 2024, it was 39.
2023 was 39.
Okay. So it would have increased then, yes. I don't have the audited financial statement in front of me, sorry, but
Yeah, Brian?
Okay, first of all, just on the front page there, I like that number, 2,137 visits from school children. Keep that up, that's good. They're going to be around for a while. Those. But then on the other page there, expense, payroll, wages and salary, you mentioned the increase was for librarians' hours. So,
and the cost of living increase for all.
so the hours are up to 32 now? Is that what
Well, yes, for 2025. So in 2024, I worked 28 hours a week.
28, okay.
Which was an increase from the previous year, was 24. So we've been building up 4 hours a year.
Okay.
So it went from, I worked 24 hours a week for years and years. And then in 2023, it increased to 28. No, in 2024, it increased to 28. I'm saying I'm getting too many numbers. And in 2025, it will increase to 32 hours.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wanted to reiterate something when you brought up the children, and I really see that they are the foundation, right? Like if we bring them into the library when they're young and they have all these opportunities open to them, and they see what is possible and the world opens to them, that is a huge benefit, I think, for all of us, for our community, right? So yes, I will be keeping that.
Absolutely, yeah, that's great. Yeah, nice to see.
Have you noticed your visits by students increase? And I'm wondering, is it because, did one of the libraries close here, one of the schools?
Both schools have a room with books in it, but it's not a living library in the sense of new additions. The classes don't necessarily go to that room. Sometimes the teacher will take their class there, but there's no new books coming in, right? It's stagnant. So the students you see coming in, that's not strictly, but it is because of the outreach program that we have where we encourage the teachers to bring their classes in. So as much uptake as we can get from the teachers to bring their classes every 2 weeks, that's how many kids come through. So I've had excellent success with outreach. One of the schools has every class coming, and the other school has several of the classes coming. Sometimes it's just a bit too much of a challenge for them to come, depending on the makeup of the class, but yeah.
Well, it's tremendous service for our community. And, I get lots of calls as far as compliments, and I don't necessarily always pass them on to you, but there's a lot of people that do talk, and they're very pleased with the operation and what's provided and what's available. But there's always a but. They always say, why can't we do something at Christmas? Why can't we do something on a holiday? And I say probably because of cost, but I don't know that for sure. But I'd love to have some data so I can share with people that it would cost us this much money, that type of thing. If that is the reason, type thing. Because I'm not sure how successful you were during March break, but I had a lot of feedback as far as people saying, hey, that's really good, the library's open, so those are comments. I don't know if you can provide us something down the road for data that we can use.
I can definitely provide you with some data once I go back to to my office or whatever. But what I will say is that a couple of things. One is that we are matching sort of what is done at most libraries, or the majority of libraries, and I've called around over the years and to see, when are you guys open, when are you guys closing? And because you've got we're open 5 days a week, and when the stats fall, it's a broken week. I mean, it's much like, I believe the municipality is closed during that Christmas to New Year's period as well, and it's just a matter of even trying to find staff. And then of course, if the building's closed, then that changes staffing too, because you're talking about, no matter what, we have to have 2 staff because there's no one else in the building. There's a lot of factors, but a lot of it has to do with, matching what our township staff are doing, matching what other township libraries are doing. So, yeah.
Well, I just thought I'd pass that on,
Sure.
my line has been cost, so
Yeah.
I'm sure that falls in the line with what you're saying and what will be proven out, so.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anybody else have anything? Good. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you guys for your time, and good luck with today. There will be some fun celebrations at the end of it somewhere. being St. Patty's Day now.
Good luck with your grandma.
Oh, thanks. Work continues. All right.
And our next one is Aqua.
The minutes that I had to.
Did you lose it? Did you get to see a ball game? Did you get to see a ball game on your good roads?
Yeah, we're going Sunday.
Who was in town?
Baltimore, no, I forgot. We're all going Sunday, and Washington comes in town Monday, so we only get these, the Tuesday games.
How much do your tickets go up this year?
I forget how much the tickets.
156.
2 years ago, this one was 90. But the rate goes off if you
Toronto's doing good in hockey, you did.
made me $5 Saturday night. Baltimore, yeah, was there Sunday.
Oh, that's a good team to see.
We'll be here in about 4 minutes. Nicole got done a little early.
It's a good start for the day to be early.
for an hour and a half Saturday.
About 6 hours on Sunday.
So Tammy's gonna look in to make sure we can drive your truck. Tammy's gonna look in and see if, to make sure we're insured under your
Sure.
truck.
You might as well put some Irish music on over there or something.
I got you.
Let's open up that briefcase. You said you had something in there.
Put it right in the microphone. Intermission. I look up Irish jokes on my phone, but I don't know if they'd be like clean enough for a pencil to use.
Pardon? No,
No mints. Come on.
here's something here.
Good man, Teddy.
One guy told me on YouTube they're all you do is sit and eat mints.
So those councils where for the older conference, we're looking at, we might be taking Dean's truck, because Dean's going by himself.
Teddy's.
Instead of us taking.
Teddy's here. Another that one for breakfast. We're getting back to him. Be nice if we had coffee.
What's that?
I said it'd be nice if we had coffee. There used to be one there.
Maybe I should announce there's an intermission.
Well, you can get up and step dance on the table there.
I need a few drinks to do my Irish chicken. What's that?
You can arrange that.
Oh, the Irish Rovers, I remember watching them like every weekend with my parents. CBC.
You wanna go fishing trout? Go behind my place, it's flooded right up to George. Did you see it there?
Saw that yesterday.
I know one thing, I'm glad I got drainage under my floor. I got drainage under my floor in the basement. We'll all clap when Ashley comes in. Something else to do.
There he is. Good morning, and you're up.
Morning. All right. The first one we did was Saturday, so.
Whatever they thought of everything, so it's
All right. So again, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Sorry for my few minutes time there. A bit of a later night with all the flooding last night. Quite a few of the plants. So I'm here to go over the 7-year major maintenance forecast. We'll start with the water plant, 6069. So this is very similar to every year. We just keep rolling with the new projects and moving forward. It's very similar to past years. The difference this year is we added a hydrogen peroxide analyzer at 7,500 for this year. That is already been purchased, or is ready to be purchased, as well as to replace one of the pressure tanks that supplies the town with constant pressure today. And the rest is all very minimal, normal wear and tear kind of items that we have. Item 14, under additional items, we also have another one at around 10, if another hydrogen peroxide if required, but we won't utilize that unless we need to at the time. Moving into the wastewater, again, very similar to years past. And yeah, very minimal items throughout the year. Collection system, back truck and power flushing is the remaining, and pumping station repairs are two of the largest ones. So this is on cue with the past few years, and then moving forward, I suspect around the same. We are going to start looking at some of the headers in the clarifier from that supply here into the biological system. But that's not into next year. So we're going to start doing some planning this year and what we need to do to retrofit those. That's pretty much it.
Does anyone have any questions for Ashley? On the front page, one that looks like this.
Oh,
Last year on that page, it showed a different number. I think it was 32,000 maybe.
no, okay. I don't have those numbers yet.
I didn't bring mine either, but or 2025 was supposed to be a lesser amount than 2024. And I didn't bring my sheet, so I can't give you the exact number.
Okay. I can look into that and get back to you.
But not that I'm disputing the numbers or not, but I'm just wondering, did it get rolled over as opposed to?
I believe.
Actually, I think 2026. It says 32,802, and I think that number was in 2025, and 48,000 was in 2024. I think.
Okay, well, I'll have a look.
Yeah.
We'll get back on that.
Yeah, it might have just been a transposition error type thing.
I know the pressure tank was slated to be done last year, I believe, but just due to the pricing and stuff, and the filter, we ended up rolling the pressure tank that's on there. I believe it is, I
Anybody else have any questions? Wow, we're good.
Good. Just while I'm here, we did experience 25 fills yesterday at the sewage plant. It was all, we were able to maintain normal service, everything was fine, but it was, it's typical for this time of year when we get a big rain event and all like that. So it was quite bad. We had staff in most of the night here last night too. So, all good.
It was an event.
It was an event.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
How did your mom like your trip?
I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
She said she might have ran into some people down there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Tyler Peters isn't scheduled till around, roughly around 10 o'clock. So did we want to bring Will in, and then when Tyler Peters comes in, we can go in after though?
Yep.
Or,
Either that or go for a drink.
do one of the guys want to go? Do we want to bring one of them in? Like, how long will
Just
Will
bring
be?
Will in.
How long will he be?
I'm not sure.
He'd be half done by now if we stopped asking questions.
No, I know, but 10 o'clock, it's only got 20 minutes to talk. Whatever you think.
Mr. Peters.
Here to chair.
Because I'd hate to have him wait because he's coming from elsewhere. If we want to bring Will in, let's go. Let's do it.
We got it. It's better than sitting here doing nothing.
Tammy, on the water treatment plant, so that's basically 133,000 less than last year, right?
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I can't comment on that. We're bringing Will in, or am
I thought Dean went for, I don't know. Oh,
Time you have to leave at 2.
What's that?
You have to leave at 2. I gotta leave at 2. Go to Brentford. Excited for the ball game, Charlie? Excited for the ball
oh,
game?
what you shaking?
They're winning a few in the grapefruit league, eh?
Yeah.
I will come in. So it all needs a little bit extra time, so if another staff member would like to go.
How about Tyler?
This will work from before. February 19th one. So here I just do a quick run over some of the stats. So in 2024, total number of building permits was 81. Estimated value of construction in the township was just shy of $5 million. Total building permit and sewage permit revenue came out to be $31,681. Our building permit deposit fees that we pull in on every permit.
Carry on.
14,300. That number's down. We've been going back to get old permits closed up, so we've been receiving some deposit back. Chart there for the different types of construction and estimated small items would be following the passing of the comprehensive zoning bylaw in 2024, the county had advised there's a 1-year housekeeping amendment the municipality may choose to undertake. The purpose behind the housekeeping amendment is that the municipality will have a new bylaw in effect for a year, in which time staff and members of the public would have the opportunity to identify provisions that may require review and tweaking. Over the course of the year, I've identified several items for the council to review should they choose to undertake a housekeeping amendment. I spoke to the county, who advised the cost to complete the amendment is $935. That's their fee. All taxpayers would require notification of the update, therefore postage would need to be included in this price if we were unable to group the zoning notices with the tax bill mail-outs. If council should choose to proceed with this, we have included $1,500 under the planning budget line and $6,000 in postage to accommodate. I think it would be a very beneficial amendment to do for the taxpayers, but it's up to you guys. Last year, I had enrolled in the city reporter bylaw module later on in the year. It's been very helpful. I wouldn't mind continuing with it. The total amount for this module is $2,200 plus tax, which I've included under the bylaw department. Dog kennel contract. Following 2024 budget, I have attempted to move forward on the kennel contract with the Pembroke SPCA. However, the SPCA did not follow back up with me despite numerous phone calls and emails. Therefore, last year we did not have this service available to us. In chatting with one of our local neighboring municipalities, they too are not receiving a response from the SPCA. Aside from Bancroft, there are no other kennels close by to my knowledge. I have not reached out to Bancroft, but I understand they might be expensive and over an hour away. So just a point for council to consider that it is a budget line item for the contract, but we just don't have one right now. So under health and safety, applicable staff will be due for their working at heights and first aid CPR training. I've spoken to department heads about this, and their budgets will need to adjust accordingly. Larger ticket items, I guess. Brennan's Creek retaining wall. The survey and legal costs for this project were allocated to the 2024 budget. However, the bill for the wall remediation has not been received until 2025. Therefore, that's been put in the 2025 budget under property standards. And we had chatted at last meeting about building permit cost review, which council gave a go ahead for, and yeah, that is my budget. Any questions, concerns?
On the dog kennel, so somebody calls, there's nothing we can do right now then, or?
I can't. We have nowhere to take a dog.
Yeah.
We don't have a contract with any local kennels, so we just provide the information for any of the local welfare services, and that's the best we can do, is we just have a contract. Lots of calls and emails in, but just no follow-up, so.
So, one
Question, Tyler, on that comprehensive zoning, that $935, so will that complete that then? Is that final, or?
Yeah, so that $950 is if you had to go to the county for rezoning to change from residential to commercial, that's the same flat fee, and that's just a fee payable to them. According to the county, that's the only fees and charges associated with doing that housekeeping. There wouldn't be anything else except for postage. We are investigating other alternative ways for public notice, using newspapers, online, etc., to avoid that cost too, but it's just in case kind of thing. So it would be very beneficial to do it. There's a couple of things for consistency that would be very helpful. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Tyler, just confirming, you built all of these suggested things?
They're getting there already. Yeah. They were small enough, I thought that I could probably tell them that.
And one other question, when we did, like, what's our history on collecting dogs and sending them off to a kennel?
The most we've ever had in a year is 2 maybe. Past 2 years, nothing.
None, because there's nowhere to take them.
Don't know where to take them either.
There is, but
What's that?
sort of is.
Yeah.
Just bring them here.
Yeah, so
Tyler, just do you know offhand how much the cost was for Brennan's Creek?
like total with everything?
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Like I know we bumped the budget up. You did that?
Yeah, so for 2025 is bumped up in property standards
To
to
32.
accommodate for the actual
Actual
work
cost.
that was completed, but any of the survey legal costs was last year's.
Right.
So I think it was around the 19.
19 to 20?
Yeah. I just don't have the exact number, so.
Okay. And under the health and safety wages, who is that? An individual or is that part of you? How does that work?
That's just part of mine. So every year in my various different departments, I have wages allocated because I don't know
Yeah,
which
where you're going to be.
going from. For example, this year, we're going to be doing working at heights and CPR training, so wages would be allocated there. I'm also joint health and safety committee certified, so when those courses pop up, I'll go to them. So then those wages get allocated there.
Good. Anybody else have any questions? We're good. Thank you. See you at lunch.
You have staff to stay for the whole thing.
Oh, okay. Tyler. You're up.
Morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. My name is Tyler Peters. I'm with Greenview Environmental. We work with the township, of course, and have for many years with respect to waste management, but also municipal assets and infrastructure. So, as we do every year, we provide a work plan through staff, working closely with the staff members to develop that work plan, and again, today will be just a quick run through of what that work plan entails. Happy to answer any questions, of course, to you, Mr. Chair, and talk about a fairly busy 2025 with respect to our support to the township. So, as per usual, we provide tables, and I see in your package you have copies of those tables. Table 1 is our ongoing routine waste disposal site monitoring and reporting programs. This is a requirement of your municipal waste sites, whether they operate or they are closed. In your case, of course, you are currently not landfilling municipal waste, direct municipal waste at any of your sites. You are landfilling construction demolition waste at the Red Rock site. So the township's application for expansion of the Red Rock site is successful, and that is a great opportunity for you to manage that specific type of material. But the budget there that's presented in Table 1 includes the costs to do that work. Considerable portion of that is analytical fees as usual. So that's what's included in Table 1. Table 2, we've been able to reduce the scope of Table 2 down considerably for 2025 based on changes to what you may recall as the WDO data call. So that's a reporting process. And some of those types of tasks have been taken out for 2025. There's savings to the township there. We're down to 4 key tasks that are recommended for this coming year. As we do each year, part of the township's auditing process. We support the finance department with respect to your closure liability assessment. That's already been completed. For the Red Rock site, we have a couple of tasks that are, one is driven by the expansion ECA, so it's a requirement that had a timeline associated with it. And working with staff this year, we're specifically focused on completing the majority of that work in 2025, as it is a compliance-related item. Task 3 is specific to the use of the site and working with Dean and his team in terms of safe and efficient landfilling of materials at the Red Rock site. It's been a little bit of time since we've had the opportunity to do a grade staking at the site, so this is important to make sure that additional work or rework isn't needed. And item 4 is again an annual task that we support the township with in terms of managing your construction demolition waste. That is primarily collected, of course, at the Kiloo site. The material is size reduced, shredded and such. And we go through a contracting process, tendering contracting process to support the township there. So we're down considerably on table 2, certainly with respect to recycling reporting, because that reporting in effect has changed. The data call process has changed. Table 3 is an annual amount that is allocated to the waste management department that we carry on per request of staff. This is typically used only on an as-needed basis with permission of staff with respect to larger solid waste management planning needs. Currently, we don't have a specific active task associated with this amount, but there is an opportunity potential that may come about this coming year with respect to all the changes with recycling and blue box transition that I'll talk about. Table 4. This is normally we do 3 tables to council. To try and keep it straightforward. We've added table 4 basically at the request of staff to keep things separate. We had kind of a mixed budget to some extent last year. Table 4 is specific to blue box recycling transition and the support for that. So as council will recall, we presented kind of what the anticipated change would be through last summer. Now the township is in a position with the depot operations agreement, so that's in place, which was executed last August. That is in order. Where you're moving towards next is the actual start of transition commencing July 1st. So effectively, at this point, working closely with Miller Waste. Miller Waste is now your service provider, which was something we tried to get clarity on for many months. Commencing in 2023, finally got clarity on that last fall. So we've had a couple of meetings with Miller Waste. They've been very helpful and very interested in supporting the township through the transition. So the first item here is continuing on with the blue box transition support under the legislation. So this is specific to residential blue box, which is what the program is about. Okay. Unfortunately, through the development of the legislation, you may recall that your industrial, commercial, and institutional generators are not included. So that is material that needs to be managed. Working through both last year with the township here, but also with some of your neighboring municipalities, there may be interest in a cooperative procurement opportunity that would include the township with respect to managing the non-eligible sources, so our IC&I sector. Okay. So we've initiated that process. Currently the township and Madawaska Valley are partnering on that. Okay. So you're sharing costs. So it's not all on KHR. MV is very much interested in that, of course, with their larger IC&I sector. They're interested in looking at solutions to manage that as well. Theirs is more complex. in terms of organics and all the other things that they have. So we're working kind of with both municipalities, kind of sharing those, our efforts, but sharing the costs and that kind of thing between the two. So that's task number 2 in table number 4. Okay. We've had initial meetings, we've had initial discussions, both last year and had an initial meeting a few weeks ago. Now we're at the point with respect to non-eligible sources to identify who's actually interested in moving that forward. Just for council's information, Oscar Valley, HR, of course, Brunel, Lindauer, and Raglan, and Norfolk Wilberforce were the initial participants in that initial meeting. So now the March break is over and budgets are underway, obviously. We'll be confirming interest of all the parties moving it forward from here. So that is the waste management work plan for 2025. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to answer any questions on the waste management. I do have another item.
Does anybody have any questions? I believe the last time you were here to visit with us, you talked about the Miller Group, and they were going to come into our town and do pickups.
Yes.
Where are we with that? And are we?
So good question. So July 1st is your transition date. So the township transitions to the new process on July 1st of this year. So commencing July 1st, Miller Waste will be doing curbside collection in Killaloe, the village of Killaloe, for residential locations and commercial locations. Okay, and it's tricky. You might recall my presentation and seemed to jump around a little bit, but during the transition period, so July 1st to the end of the year, basically December 31st, Miller Waste is expected, certainly the residential, the commercial we're trying to get confirmation on, they will do curbside collection in the village, okay? At your transfer sites or at the depot sites, that effectively will continue as it is now, okay, until the end of the year. As of January 1st, things will change, and that's when everything is Miller Waste's circular materials, their contractor is Miller. It's their responsibility on the residential side. So on our commercial and industrial and institutional elements, which is this non-eligible source thing, that is left to effectively municipalities and the actual generators. So we're working this year to sort all of that out. Council will of course be involved in those discussions as we understand what our options and alternatives are, but we have the time starting July 1st to the end of the year to effectively continue as we are now. Okay? So we are delayed. All of those that are served in this particular catchment by Miller Waste are delayed because that decision of service provider wasn't concluded until effectively summer last year. Everyone else knew who their service provider was in an opportunity to negotiate service. We weren't. And we asked, since going back to 23, who was going to be the service provider. We thought it might be Mterra because of their presence in the county, but it's not. Now, that doesn't mean that Mterra isn't working with Miller. So Mterra is now operating the Ottawa Valley Waste Recovery Center. Operating it, they don't own it, they're operating it, and there will be likely some element of cross-servicing between Miller and Mterra, but the point is from the township's perspective, the producers are looking after that, and what we're trying to make sure is that there are no hiccups, there's no bumps. So moving into July 1st, there'll be promotion and educational information coming out. We're just sorting through some of the details over the next month, is the expectation we'll have some things sorted for council's confirmation heading into July 1st. So July 1st, things will change in terms of seeing Miller Waste's trucks collecting in the village. But other than that, this service will continue to move forward throughout the year. Okay? So we want to get in front of this. We've been trying to get in front of it for some time. We will get in front of it working with Miller in terms of getting notice out to residents, both via flyers at the base site, website, a number of different ways we can get information out there, which again is supported by the producers, the costs of which, but we're trying to get ahead of that so that there are as few questions and concerns from ratepayers as possible. Okay. There's always that change, I'm sure everyone knows. There's always the little blip for, say, 30 days when questions come in when there is change, but the hope is that that is as seamless as possible moving forward.
Any other questions?
Okay, so I just have one other item that's in your package with respect to the future public works facility. So we've provided an item, just working with staff, to finish the design on the public works facility. I think it might be, sorry?
I don't think we got anything.
I'm sorry, Tim, am I early for that?
I think so, because I didn't get it from you. With other work, no, I didn't get anything.
Sorry, it came in an email format, not in a table format. Sorry, I can save that for a future meeting.
I didn't know that they already have some in yours.
Some, but we'll follow on to that aspect because basically we were going to try and set up a meeting to have Tyler come in and discuss and together with Dean and Tyler and all council and try and figure out what process council wants to continue with that. So we didn't really include technically budget paperwork on it because it's kind of an ex-state thing at this point. So.
No, I'm premature. My apologies, Mr. Mayor.
No problem.
Happy to any final questions, and got a busy day, I'm sure.
I think we're good. Have a good one. Oh,
No, the only thing, just so council's aware, with the commercial, if we don't get Miller Waste, that's gonna be an extra cost because we don't pick up schools. Like Miller Waste won't pick up schools, churches, and we previously do that, just for councils, making sure that they know that.
so, right, they're just gonna do residential. So any commercial or like public.
But we're still working with that with Tyler as well.
Oh, that's in the negotiation? Right.
So that's a good point, Dean. So one of the unknowns that we were trying to resolve with Miller Waste is to make sure that Miller Waste is collecting all of your commercial, institutional, industrial stops in the village from July 1st to the end of the year. Okay? Whether the township does it now or whether they don't do it now, we're trying to clarify that with Miller. And Miller is very busy because, again, they've been thrown into the position. They have a number of different municipalities that are transitioning right from January 1st to now. So every month there's more and more, so they're very busy. We've had 2 meetings with their representative here, and been very good meetings. We've specifically asked for them to confirm that in writing. I got a phone call late one evening last week and no message. So presenting with the budget this year, there may be a cost to the township to collect other spots, as Dean mentioned, whether it be schools or such. But there also may be contracts in place outside of the township for that to be managed. So this is the big thing. So and I mentioned this, and I know it was some time ago, moving forward with residential management of recycling is one thing. The fact that the legislation doesn't include non-eligible sources is kind of the devil in the details, where municipalities across the province are having to manage this, or municipalities are saying to their businesses, it's on you, good luck. And that isn't necessarily the best approach to supporting your local businesses. So we're looking at different alternatives to find what the best way is. That includes a costing analysis and things like that. So it's a challenge, as Dean mentioned. It's something that's important. We're trying to get clarification in writing that is within Miller Waste's agreement to serve the township at least for the next 6 months while we develop our plan and present that to council for recommendations and execution starting next year. But there are a number of these pieces that are still out there, and it's unfortunately hard to get clarification on them. So there may be that collection element, as Dean mentioned, there may be a cost to be doing that servicing. If they're currently under a service agreement, like the schools or things like that, already under a service agreement that has nothing to do with the township, that may exclude the township. There isn't an obligation for the township to start providing service to somebody you haven't served in the past, unless you choose to do that.
So,
Just,
oh,
sorry.
so the seniors building up here, that wouldn't be picked up then, right? By
If
Miller's?
it's it's multi-residential, so
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, it would, okay.
It
Sorry.
is now, correct?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one
No,
of the
no,
three,
yeah.
yeah. So that is included
Okay.
under, and it is no cost to the township moving forward.
So like the school, the
Yeah.
businesses,
Sure.
trailer parks,
Municipal
Churches.
buildings,
all those things.
larger campgrounds and trailer parks are considered commercial. The municipal buildings are considered non-eligibles. So there's different things that we'll need to work through. But what we want to know from Miller is what are they currently contracted to do for the Township of Kilwood and Harry Dean Richards? And that's not in that side of things, and that's not specifically clear yet, which is hard to believe.
But like, just so council knows, Tyler, we need to have these conversations with them. At the end of the day, like, if they don't accept commercial recycling, we would probably end up getting bins or something at the landfill site, correct?
So that'll be where we're going through a costing analysis as part of our service this year, part of our work plan, to provide those costs to council so that you know what it's going to cost for you to do whatever type of service. So one of the options, as Dean mentioned, is we would have to have separate bins, for example, at Killaloe and or the Brown Lake sites, just for your commercial. So they can't be in the residential bins. Okay? They can be for the next 6 months, but starting January 1st, they can't. Okay? So we're in transition mode, is the second half of this year, and what's called post-transition, when everything is set, will be January 1st, 2026.
So, Dean, I'm gonna pass you, but
Yeah.
Dean, so you have to make sure that those 6 months are included in your budget, right? Like just in case something may happen, that something might not be picked up by Miller's. That's gonna put the onus on you then, like to try to forecast that, because it's a piecemeal type thing. It's not a blanket.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So we'll be, Mr. Mayor, just further to your point, we'll be continuing to work with staff to make sure we're covering off these pieces. And clarity is expected, effective immediately. We should have had something back in writing. So we're wondering if there is an issue between Miller and Circular Materials, who's responsible for providing this service across Ontario. So that's why we think there's a delay, but we will get to the bottom of it, for sure.
Well. Okay. Everybody good? We're good?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Government makes it more difficult all the time.
Tammy, is Will ready?
I don't understand why they wouldn't pick commercial up that.
Well, that'd be an extra cost.
Yeah, we don't have that much here.
No,
I don't understand, the government's the one forcing this, right? Why isn't everybody the fucking same?
just do the legislation with it.
Like, how do they know in the bins if it's commercial or?
Well, because they have a tonnage rate, so like they get the tonnage rate down from what you actually do as a whole right now.
Yeah.
So commercial, the cardboard, whatever, so they know all the tons and every parts, right? So if they know, like, just say for instance, there's 10,000 ton a month or whatever, then if it's 12,000, they know that commercial is being put into it.
So we're still gonna have to have
Yeah,
bins
but their
there for,
commercial goes in there right now, so they
Right
don't
now.
know.
But they would know, because if residential would be, sorry, I have my mistake there, Ted. Because now, just say for instance, it's 10,000, and now say it's 2,000, or 2,000, should say 2,000 for the residential plus commercial. You know what I mean?
We need a bigger desk for you.
They're still going.
too much paper, Will,
The residential from.
too much paper.
Even when all this starts rolling, they're not gonna start
A
going,
lot of this I may not need, but
they're not gonna go around every road and pick up.
No,
in case there's
They
questions.
just whitewater, they pick up everything,
just the building, Ted, and
Yeah,
then,
and then-
bank that's like
so
Sundays.
I can still go to the dump and take my recycling out of there.
I'll give you guys copies on the financial statements. Thank you, Warren. Thank you. Hey, we're both one out. There you go, man. Hey, Ted.
Okay, thank you.
Carl.
Morning, Will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Give Tammy coffee. Bob? Colton, would you like coffee?
I trust you, I don't even.
Thanks, Colton. Appreciate that. Okay, this is our annual bit. So I'll do what I've normally done. I'll just go over the financial statements. I won't go into them in real detail, because I know you guys got a full agenda today, and you probably don't want me to put you to sleep. So I'll hit some of the major stuff, and then, but please feel free to interrupt if you have a question or don't understand something. Okay? So we'll start off on page 1, which is the independent auditor's report, and that's where we'll start there. I won't read the whole report to you guys. I'll just read the second paragraph, and it says, in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township as at 31 December 2024 and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Basically what that says in simple terms is that as auditors we have no reservations on the numbers that are presented on the financial statements. So that's basically the clean bill of health, okay? Now, one thing I'm going to do here quickly that I haven't done in a while, I'm just going to go over what the audit process is, because I know some of you guys see me here and think that's it, it's just me. So I just wanted to go through it. So normally what happens is Christy and I come here in the fall, and what we do is we look at, make sure that the processes that are in place, and that you guys say that are in place, are actually in place and are working. So we look at all the different revenue streams, taxation, user charges, and we make sure that those processes are being followed. At the same time, then we look at the purchases, payables, and payments to make sure that process is being followed.
And we look at payroll also, to make sure that, you know, if payroll bylaw says that so-and-so's supposed to get so much per hour, that's what that person's getting. So we look at payroll. We also look at make sure that the bank is getting reconciled every month. We make sure that the taxes receivable, water and sewer receivables are getting reconciled every month. So we just look and make sure that everything is going to plan as it's supposed to go. Because right now audits are basically based on risk assessment. So that's basically what the procedural audit is doing, is looking at risk. So once Christy and I are done with that, we take the file back to the office, and the partner in charge is Lord Richards. So he checks the file. So he makes sure that Christy and I didn't miss anything. So that's fine. So everything goes good. The file's checked. So then Christy and I come back up here at year end to the year end. So that entails making sure we basically look and reconcile every number in the GL, especially the balance sheet accounts. We make sure that those are reconciled at the year end. We also make sure that there's a good cutoff at the year end to ensure that the numbers are right. We also send out third-party confirmations to make sure that the numbers that adhere to are also correct. So, like for instance, we send out a bank confirm to the bank, and they send it back to us confirming the balances that are in the bank are what you guys tell me that they are. We also send out what's called accounts payable conference to suppliers to ensure that if in the books it says that BEI that you guys owe BEI $100,000 at the end of the year, we make sure that when BEI sends that confirmation, the BEI says, hey, yeah, township owes us $100,000. So we make sure that we got good cutoff there. We also, just to make sure to confirm receivables, we also send out receivables to taxpayers and to water and sewer customers to ensure that what the township again is saying that's owed. If the township is saying that Marine owes $200 in water and sewer, well, she says, yeah, that's right, and she sends back the confirmation. If it's wrong, she says it's wrong and tells us what the right amount is, and then we investigate to find out why. So that's all third party verification that the numbers are right. Okay. So once that's all done, I do the financial statements up, and those files, and it goes kind of the same idea as the procedural audit. So there's a capital file. That capital file goes to another partner, Jason Healy, who checks the capital file, make sure the capital file is correct. And the reason it goes to Jason is because him and I originally, back in 2000, did the asset management here and set up the tangible capital assets. So he's familiar, so that's why it goes to him. And then there's the general file, there's the library, there's the recreation, there's the reserve fund files. Those all go to Roy Richards, and he checks to make sure that they're all right and the numbers are all good. And if there's questions, it comes back to me, we clear them, so the statements are all done. Well, they're not all done, sorry, they're not all done. That's the first part. So then those statements then end up going to Trudy in our office. She reads through them, and I've never met anybody or had anybody else in any other business that I've ever had been associated with. She makes sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Make sure that there's everything is good. When she's done with it, it goes to another partner, Dan Thompson. Dan Thompson reads through all the statements, make sure that they're right. While that whole process is going on, I do what's called the FIR, which is the Financial Information Return, which in simple terms is a tax return for you guys, for a township, which has to go to the ministry. I was just talking to Tyler Peters up in the hall there, and usually the last piece of information that I need to finish the FIR is the landfill numbers. And so Tyler told me today, by the time I get back to my office tomorrow morning, there'll be an email with the numbers, and then I can finish the FIR, because those are the 3 numbers that I need to finish the FIR right now. So that once I finish the FIR, which is really just a regurgitation of the financial statements, but in the form that the ministry wants them. So then what we do then is we send the FIR along with a copy of the financial statements to the ministry. And the ministry reviews not only the FIR, but the ministry also reviews our financial statements to ensure that everything jives. Okay? And then if they have any questions, they'll normally contact me. As of to date, since 2000, the ministry's never contacted me for anything. I shouldn't say they contacted me last year, just because last year was a transition year on the landfill closure post-closure costs, and they were more seeking advice than asking questions on the FIR, because we were able to get the FIR for I think about the 3rd, 4th, 5th year in a row as one of the first ones in Ontario to have the FIRs filed. So that's the process of the audit. So just want to let you guys know that there are several people that have looked at the numbers before they're finalized. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you understood that. So I'll jump to page 16, which is the statement of is our schedule of general operations, which is the most for you guys is the most important, one of the most important statements in this financial package, because it shows the results of the finances here for the year in the township without any consolidations. So we start off with our revenue, and our net municipal taxation was up this year slightly, mainly due to the supplementary taxes. There was more supplementary taxes this year than there were write-offs, so our tax revenue was up a little bit. Under government transfers, our Ontario grants were very close to what was budgeted for. Under Canada, our actual is under what was budgeted, mainly because the Briars Creek Road capital project came in under budget, and it was to be partially funded through the gas tax money. And so, because it came under budget, we didn't need to use that gas tax money. So that gas tax money stays in what's called an obligatory reserve fund. And council, during the 2025 budget process, then can use not only this year's gas tax allocation, but can also use the 2024 gas tax allocation for capital projects, because you didn't use it in 2024. Okay. Other municipalities is the budget and actual are exactly the same. That represents the M&R fire agreement. each year. Other revenue was up this year, mainly because of the sale of the Queen Street property. And with interest rates staying high during 2024, our investment income on our money in the bank was higher than budgeted. And our penalties and interest was higher this year because our our tax receivable was high, so it was up. So that was the reason for our other income being up, which meant that our total actual income this year, or revenue, was approximately $5.7 million compared to 5.6 in budgeted. Under expenses, our general government was under budget this year, mainly because council decided that there wasn't not to have as many meetings this year. So that causes a trickle-down effect, not only for council salaries, but for the finance department's salaries too. They go down too. The other big contributing factor to that was that in the 2024 budget, it was budgeted for a new computer server, which is desperately needed right now here, and to update the email part. I'm not an IT guy, I just know that that's what. And due to tiny issues with the computer company and the IT support people, that wasn't able to get done in 2024. But my understanding is that it's scheduled to be done early in 2025, so that'll have to be part of the 2025 budget to get that in there. And just not to dwell on the point, the server right now is required almost as soon as possible because Charlene is having a number of issues with Adam, and I think the main reason because of that is because of the antiquated server that we have here right now. So the sooner that gets fixed, the better, because we have right now in 2025, we have two major problems that we have to sort out that are being not because of mainly because of computer issues, not because of other issues at all. So that's very important to get that done. Protections to persons and property is also a little budget this year. The actual numbers and I guess I don't know whether Bob's happy or sad or on this one, but there's no structural fires in the township this year. So that causes a trickle down effect again with on your salaries go down because the guys aren't going out to fight fires. Because they're not going out to fight fires, the equipment and the trucks aren't getting used as much as expected. So your repairs and maintenance on the trucks and equipment are lower than what was expected. So there you go. Transportation services are again, they came in under budget this year. Again, oh, sorry, I'll go back to protection persons for a second. The other reason why it's down is because we got a number of policing credits during the year, which you can't predict. It just happens. And so that helped out on policing costs in 2024. Under transportation services, Dean's Upper Days Luckies in 2025. There's been in 2024, he had an easy winter and very few weather events too. So not like the flooding he's dealing with today, and then I had to deal at my house yesterday. So that again, with an easy winter, no major weather events, your salaries go down. You don't have to wear and tear on your equipment. Therefore, your maintenance and repairs are down. And also, too, there's audit, there was also no really major breakdowns this year. It had to be done. So that all accumulates in there. Another point too, with no major weather events, like say the flooding today or yesterday, in 2024, he didn't need to use all his gravel to help fill up washouts and etc. So there we go again. There's something else. Under environmental services, again, it came in under budget, mainly because Tyler, who was in here before me, he gives you guys the numbers for how much he expects to do at the landfills as far as the landfill expansion, the long-term waste management plan, the conversion, the blue box conversion plan, which the government is forcing everybody. So he didn't have he didn't have as much work as he expected on some of that stuff, and or didn't get it done during the year. So there was budget savings there. The blue box conversion is a real guess at the cost. I was at a municipality a few weeks ago, and their engineers had, I forget what they exactly budgeted, because they didn't know. They didn't have a clue in 2024 how it was all coming down the tubes. So it basically came in at 25% of the total amount that they had estimated that the conversion was going to cost. But they're not sure whether there's going to be more costs in 2025 because the government hasn't really set out clear-cut rules on how that conversion is going to be done. So that's our environment. And then also coupled with that, Aqua, and Ashley was in here before. I mean, they give you guys the estimates based on what they think that their work is going to be. And so again, there wasn't as much work done this year as they had expected. And then we come down to recreation and cultural services. Again, they were under budget this year, mainly because when you guys were in the budget, I don't think you guys expected Chris Neff to move on. So Chris left early on in the year, and then there was a period of time that there was nobody until Colton was hired, and then with Colton here getting up to speed and everything, there was a number of projects that you guys had budgeted for, mainly at the Killaloe Pathways Park, that just didn't get done this year, just because of the transition. But those projects are now scheduled to be done in 2025. So that's the big thing there. Planning and development came in close to budget. So our total expenditures for the year, our actual expenditures came in at 4.7 million compared to budgeted of 5.7 million. That gave us an excess shortfall of revenues over expenses of $1 million. And now we come down to transfers. So we transferred $117,000 to the library. Our transfer to discretionary reserve fund was $21,000, which represents 20% of the tipping fees that's collected by the township during the year. And that's put into what's called the discretionary reserve fund, which is to be used for equipment or anything that's required out of the ordinary for the landfill sites. Transfer from to reserves was $646,000. Our transfer to equity and tangible capital assets was $215,000. So our total net transfers were $1 million. Our change in our surplus for the year was $4,800. We came in with a surplus of $307. So at the end of the day, we have a surplus of $5,100 on our books. And Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Yes.
Transfer to equity intangible asset, the 215, what is that?
That's part of what's called part of what's called PSAP. The short answer is that transfer is the difference between the capital that was purchased this year and amortization on the capital that we did have.
So that's the depreciation.
Yeah. That's the short answer.
Yeah.
And because it shows under transfers, municipal accounting is one of the most complicated systems out there. And part of it is because it's based on fund accounting, FUND. So each fund is looked at separately. So the capital is its own fund over here, and the general fund is its own fund here. So it's a transfer back and forth. So basically, to make it kind of simple thought process, is if you owned a store, it's very simple. It's a debit and credit. Every entry has a debit and credit, an equal debit and credit. When you come to municipal accounting, it's not that simple. You have at least one debit and credit, equal debit and credit, but you're also, in most cases, have another equal debit and credit entry. So normally, there's at least for every entry that's between funds, there's two entries, all total. So it's not simple. Okay. Next to hydro distribution company accounting, which is under IFRS, municipal accounting is a very close second to the complication of understanding how it all flows through. We'll go to page 3, which is our statement of our consolidated statement of financial position, which most of you guys would know as a balance sheet. So we start off with our fixed asset, which is our cash in bank and cash equivalents. And our bank is up to $2.4 million at the end of the year. Now that includes all our bank accounts. So that also includes the library, Kilda Recreation, and our reserve funds. Okay. Our taxes receivable are at $1.4 million, which unfortunately is higher than it was a year ago. Council decided during the year to send a number of properties to real tax to start the tax sale process. So it started off at 55. At year end, it was down to 37. The difference there was the real tax. The people either came forward, paid their taxes, or they've signed up for tax payment plans. The rest of them are staying in the tax sale process, which is again a very complicated process and a very time-consuming process. So because there's certain steps that they have to do, and those steps have to be done in proper order, and if they are not, then they have to start all over again. That's why most municipalities now are using companies like Real Tax for collection of their taxes because they specialize in that. Previously to that, it used to be the municipal lawyer used to look after that, but they never gave it wasn't a priority to them. And so a lot of times they'd be halfway or 3/4 of the way through the process and they miss a date. And well, guess what? We went back to step 1. So that's Real Tax. So basically, if to just in summary on the tax sale process, from start to finish, for someone ends up going through the whole, the whole process, you're looking at 3 years from start to finish. Our accounts receivable is up this year, mainly because the ministry didn't pay their PIL's last installment by year end, which amounted to $76,000. And as of, unless something's come in the last few days, it still isn't all here yet. And normally that their final payment should have been the same date as the taxes receivable final date. I think it's October, 31st of October is the final date, tax date here. They should have been paid. And just a note, they didn't pay interest either once it does get here. So that's our account, and then also in that accounts receivable number, and this is a bit of a staggering number, 347,000 in that number represents water and sewer.
So, council also decided during the course of the year that water and sewer were gonna go into the tax part. So next year, will that be blended or?
Now, that's a good question. Because with that happening, your water and sewer receivables look really good now.
Mm-hmm.
But your tax receivable look really bad. I've talked to Charlene, and Charlene is talking with that to see if at the end of next year, if there is a possible way for us to be able to say, okay, this much is water and sewer and this much is taxes, so that we can have relatively comparable numbers for next year's financial statements. We haven't heard back from them yet on that one. The other issue is with doing that is that usually the water and sewer generate approximately $25,000 a year in interest and penalty, which was split evenly between water and sewer to help finance their expenditures. So by doing that now, if we can't get that breakdown from that'll mean that the water and sewer will be short. Well, both water and sewer will be short approximately $12,000 this year in 2025 in revenue.
Yeah, that's an important factor.
Yes, it is. Very important factor. That has to be considered. Yeah.
But on paper it is, but it doesn't. Those numbers will be put into the tax receivable, right?
They're tax receivable, yes.
As opposed to water and sewer.
Yes.
But for your benefit to do your statement on water and sewer, that's going to show not there. Those 12.
Because you guys have moved them.
Right.
You guys have moved them. So not only have you moved them, by moving them, you've made your water and sewer receivables look a lot better, but you've made your taxes receivable look a lot worse, and you've made your water and sewer interest and penalties decrease to probably next to nothing for next year. So
I never thought of the two statements. I never thought of the two statements. That's
yes. So that also means that during the 2025 budget process, council is going to have to decide if Adam can give that breakdown for next year, which I'm expecting is probably unlikely. Then we're faced with a $25,000 revenue shortage.
But it also affects you building your rates. Like when you do your statement of water and sewer, and then you determine your new rates for the for a 5-year forecast, that affects that because those dollars aren't there.
You're gonna have, yes, so that means.
Do you guys understand that?
I know we did something stupid.
That are we still not getting that 25,000?
You're still getting that 25,000 bill.
We're just getting the wrong spot.
But instead of going to, let's say in a perfect world and everything's equal, that 25,000 now, instead of being shown as water and sewer revenue, that 25,000 now is being shown as taxes, interest, and penalty.
So is there a way for us to move it?
The only way would be to, well, you could move it or you could make an estimate, which is dangerous.
Which is dangerous, yeah. You could make the assumption, if you so wish, that in most years, past years, the water and sewer penalty interest was in the neighborhood of $25,000. So you could make an estimate at your end and say, okay, we're going to go with 25,000 and do an entry and take 25,000 out of the taxes, interest and penalty, and move it over into the water and sewer penalties and interest. Which might not be a bad idea to consider.
So you have on page 17 and 18 your schedule of water fund operations and your schedule of sewage fund.
Yes.
So he uses those two statements to build his actual rate to charge the customer, right?
That's up to you guys.
That's part of your process.
Not my process.
Not our process?
That's your process.
Okay.
I'm just here to give my, I'm just here to
Break us the good news.
break down the numbers. It's up to you guys it's up to you guys how you come about to finance things.
So I think I hear you say that there's a way to do it, most likely an estimate.
It's looking that way, Bill, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's looking that way, yes. And I think if we do that, if we do that, that's the easy part. Like, that's the easy part. The hard part would be, is that do we also do an estimate on the, on how much water and sewer receivables are in our taxes receivable at the end of the year?
Yeah.
You know, hopefully that could give us a report, or that could be available for us to do that, just so that we have comparable numbers. But that's the bridge to cross down the road. But at least we know about it now, and we can find and look at that.
Your rates for this coming year are already set, right? For the rates that we've already set for 2025?
You guys have
Or do we
set
adjust?
a 10% increase in the water and sewer for 2025.
So really, there's not an urgency to update those rates at this time, right?
Well,
They automatically get updated.
They get automatically get updated?
yeah, they automatically got updated 10%.
Yeah, that was the previous 5-year forecast that you had done, right? Or that wasn't it?
We
We did.
did not.
Okay. Okay.
I think the sewer bill's $80 and change now. It was 72, wasn't it? Something like that. Right, Charlene?
It was 77.
Oh, it was 77.
Last bill would have been
80.
80.45, and
Yeah,
the next bill
something
will be
like that.
84.70. Because it was split December of 2024 and January of 2025.
And that's bi-monthly.
Pardon?
And that's bi-monthly.
Yeah.
So every 2 months.
Does anybody have any other questions? Everyone okay?
Okay, so, our next is, account on going down our balance sheet here is investments. That $343,000 investment represents the proceeds from the sale of the old Killaloe Lighter to Ottawa River Power. That's what that investment represents. So that gives us $4.8 million in financial assets. Under liabilities, our accounts payable and accrued liabilities are up slightly this year from last year, mainly because of the mail strip. There was a delay in getting the bills, so that's why the payables are up slightly. Our deferred revenue is up this year. That's because that's where that gas tax money that we talked about earlier. That's where that gets stuck at the end of the year. Our net long-term liabilities are down by the amount of our principal payments during the year, which represents the firewall and the tandem truck that's on capital lease. Our asset retirement obligations are $1.9 million, which is the estimate per green. Then we have our net financial assets of $835,000. Then we come down to our non-financial assets, which is our tangible capital assets, which went up slightly. That's our difference between our additions and our depreciation during the year. Inventory and supplies are up this year, mainly because between by year end there hadn't been that many winter events, so the increase basically is sand and salt inventory. Our prepaid expenses are comparable to last year, so that gives us non-financial assets of $7.3 million, gives us an accumulated surplus of $8.1 million, which is broken down between our equity and tangible capital assets, which is basically our infrastructure of $5.5 million, our discretionary reserve fund of $230,000, that's our environmental one for the landfill. Our reserves of $4.3 million, our general fund of $5,000, our water fund operations deficit of $57,000, our sewage fund operations of $16,000. The library has a surplus of almost $39,000. The Killaloe Recreation has a surplus of $20,000, and our unfunded asset retirement obligations is 1.9, which all adds up to equal our $8.1 million in accumulated surplus. Okay, any questions on that statement? Okay. So I don't want to bore you guys too bad here. We'll say
This is important.
okay, good. Just keep telling me that. Page 6 is our consolidated statement of cash flows. And I'll just go through this very quickly down, but about halfway down the page, you'll see cash flows from operating activities. So the township as a whole, that's including everything, library, recreation, the general fund, okay, generated $1.2 million in cash this year. So then, what did we do with that cash? Well, we went and we spent $199,000 of that to reduce our long-term debt. Then we used $547,000 of that on capital additions. So that left us at the end of the day a net cash figure of $488,000 for the year. Combined with what we came in with gives us $2.4 million in the bank at the end of the year. And again, that includes everybody, okay? Because this is a consolidated cash flow, okay? Any questions on that?
So the cash flow, that's real cash.
That's real cash.
Okay, and the protected numbers as far as the landfill post-closure, all of those numbers, that's not in here, that's totally separate, right? Like on our reserves?
Reserves are not shown here at all.
Okay. Okay, good.
I would, I'll just point out a couple of the notes. We won't go through all of them, but we'll go to page 10. And we'll just look at note 4 for a minute. Note 4 shows what we collected for and paid to the schools and the county. So our total taxation that we billed this year was approximately $5.4 million. Out of that, we collected and paid to the school board $624,000 and to the county $1.6 million. The township gets no remuneration for doing that. If we are late for payment, we get charged interest and penalty. If people don't pay their taxes, guess what? We're still on the hook for paying this to the county schools. So that the schools represents 12% of our total taxation that we paid out, and it represents 30% of the county that we paid out. So when a ratepayer says the taxes are requiring taxes so high, what are you guys doing with my money? Sorry.
And in addition, the OPP costs.
And OPP costs, we bring OPP costs in here too, is our policing costs this year worked out to $477,000, which represents 9% of our total taxation, which then those three added together come up to 51%. So 51% of our total taxation that we raise is gone.
So we only get 49 cents on a dollar.
You got it. And that's been fairly consistent over the last number of years. It's been sitting with that like 51, 52%, somewhere in that area. We'll skip to page 13. Note 11B. Just to give you guys a little more kind of information. This is what they call segmented information. So what 11B does is it breaks down your major expenditure line items that are on the FIR, the ministry. So, for instance, I'll just go quick. Salaries. In total, the township spent $1.8 million on salaries. Interest on long-term debt, $57,000. Materials and contracted services, $2.7 million. Rent and external transfers and accretion is $257,000, and our amortization was $531,000, which gave us total expenditures of almost $5.5 million for the year. And then 11D shows the segmented breakdown for our revenues. So under taxes, we brought in $3.5 million in taxes. We brought in $974,000 in user charges, and we brought in $1.6 million in government grants, Ontario government grants, and we brought in $26,000 in Canada grants, which gave us a total revenue of $6.1 million in revenues. And that gives you your breakdown per department. I just thought, just show that. Anybody got any questions? If you're so inclined, those breakdowns, got spare time or can't sleep at night, you can go on the ministry website and look on Schedule 40 and Schedule 40 and FIR gives that expenditure breakdown. Okay? On page 14, note 13, this is just more just to give you guys an idea of what's going on. Note 13 is our net long-term liabilities, which is the infrastructure Ontario loan for the firewall and for the 110 truck. So we still owe 1.6 million on the firewall and 64,000 on the tandem truck. Dean, if my memory serves me right, I think it's August that is the final payment on the truck. So that just that being said, so our long-term debt obligation for 2025 is $221,000. That's required to make our loan payments, principal and interest. Any questions on any of those? So now we'll jump to page 17. And that's our water and sewer fund operations. So our user charges for the water was $180,000. Our expenditures was $193,000. So we had a deficit this year of $13,000 in our water. Our main issue, which has been for years here. Oh, I won't go into it. We'll look at sewer because the issues are the same thing. Sewage is our next statement. Our user charges is $173,000. We had expenditures of $183,000, and so our sewage fund operations had a deficit for the year of $10,000, and we had a deficit. We came in with a deficit of $6,100. So at the end of the day, we have a deficit in our sewage system of $16,000. The main issue for you for both water and sewer is the same for all municipalities, small municipalities that have small water and sewer services, is that just don't got enough users. It's plain and simple. That's just the way it is. You guys do have a price increase plan in place for the rates for the next, I think it's down to 3 years or 4 years now, of a 10% increase each year is in place. Those price increases may or may not cover the yearly operations. But one thing that should be looked at in the long term is how to finance the deficit going forward, like your total deficit going forward. So like in the water, we have 57,000, and in the sewage, we have almost 17,000. So now, you know, a number of years ago, the former council took some funds from the Ottawa River Power Corp Reserve and used that to offset the carry forward deficit, which helped. But that's up to council to decide on how to handle that.
Did we attempt to do that last year too? The reserve?
No.
Oh, I thought we took some money out of Ottawa River.
It was budgeted to be taken out to help finance the SCADA project.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Our page 19 is our schedule of reserve and reserve funds. I won't go into this detail because I have my little handy dandy spreadsheets here that I'll hand out after that I'll let you guys have a look at. Long story short is that our reserves basically went up $600,000 $676,000 this year. And we'll look at that in more detail from the spreadsheets, okay? We'll jump to page 24, which is a statement of financial position for Killarney Recreation. So basically, there was no log event this year, so there was basically no activity in the Killarney Recreation. So we have cash in bank at $20,000, and we have an accumulated surplus of $20,000.
Is that committed just for Killaloo,
Yes,
not the township?
it's just Killarney
So-
Rec. On page 25 is the statement of operation for the recreation. You'll see there that it earned $986 interest this year. It's unfortunate that there was no Loggers event this year, especially the first year after Stanley dying. But we'll skip to page 29, which is the library, and it's the statement of financial position for the library. And what you'll see there, it has $36,000 in the bank. It has almost $13,000 in the GIC. So they have $49,000 in the bank at the end of December. The liabilities, accounts payable $2,200. That was just that's the audit estimate for the year end. Junior Canada is basically this year represents the receiver general remittance and the HST remittance at the end of the year. It's down considerably from last year, mainly because last year they had a special project grant, which they they didn't spend it all by the end of the year, and they carried it forward into 2024. So that's why that's down. The due to the township of Killarney is the health benefits and the credit card charges that were owed to the township at the end of December. And so that gives you $10,000 of liabilities and an accumulated surplus of $38,000, and so that balances out to $49,080. Page 30 is our statement of operations and accumulated surplus from the library. They came in with a surplus of $30,000. They have total revenue for the year was $67,000. They had total expenses of $176,000. They had a shortfall of $109,000 for the year prior to the transfer from the township, and the township transferred them $117,000. That's made up of the budgeted amount of actual cash going over, and then there's a number of bills that the township pays on their behalf. So what happens is the audit bill, the insurance bill, is there any other things that get split, Tammy? No. So the audit bill and the insurance bill, they get split, so they get their share. So it just gives a truer picture of what it actually costs for the library to operate. And so in the end, they ended up with a surplus of $8,200, with an accumulated surplus at the end of the year of $38,956 for the library. Is that kind of, anybody got any questions or those?
Just an overall question. What impact do you think the 17% tax increase did for us?
Pardon me?
What impact did the 17% tax increase do for us? I can see that it really picked up our cash flows, all of those things, but overall, generally,
all it really did, like for actual numbers, is it increased your cash flow. And the only reason it increased your cash flow was because it was just one of those years where that everything kind of fell into place as far as expenditures, where a lot of things came under budget. Like, who would have thought that the fire department wouldn't have any structural fires this year? Nobody. Not picking on you, Colton, but by the budget time last year, who would have thought that Chris Neff would have left, and we would have had a period of time that position wasn't filled, and so that just meant we saved money. Dean on Briars Creek Road, he estimated the cost for Briars Creek Road based on, I think it was Traymore Road, that was done a couple of years ago, which was basically the same amount of work as Briars Creek Road, and who would have thought that it would have came in a little over $100,000 on the budget. It's like it was just one of those things, and years that all everything just kind of, you know.
Our SCADA as well.
And then, I was going to get to SCADA too. Since you asked the question, you're kind of killing some of my my action here. Yeah, and then as Candy said too, like I had, who would have thought the SCADA project would have came under budget? I know 2 years ago, before Sue even retired, Sue was scared. She was scared of how high the SCADA project would probably come in over budget, and it came in under budget. I went and sat in Dale's office when I was doing the hearing. I went and sat in Dale's office, and I made Dale phone the company. Because it's a Dale, there has to be at least, there has to be another bill. There has to be another bill that they're going to charge us. And Dale put the guy on the speakerphone, and the guy said, "Nope, that's in the end. That's what it costs." And he says, "I don't believe in if that's what it cost me, that's what I'm going to charge you." And so, like, who would have thought that? So the SCADA project, we had budget. It was in the budget according to the original estimate. We said that with what was supposed to be get done in 2024 was $178,000. It only cost us $147,000. Like who would have expected that? You know, and the savings we had on Briars Creek Road. The sidewalks came in almost right on budget. The only capital project that came in over budget this year was the Killaloo rink ports. That was the only one that came in over budget. So no one could have predicted that at that budget time. You do that. Budgets are budgets. You do the best you can with the information you have at hand at that time. That's all you can do.
I can interrupt you, Will. Just about Briars Creek Road, like you were saying, it came under budget, which it did, which is good. But 2 years prior, we had the same project on Traymore Road, the exact same project, and it was 300 and some thousand. So it's just usually everything goes up, so you kind of budget it. So at the end of the day, yes, it did come under budget, but you budget for the worst scenario, and then there you go.
Yeah. Because the worst thing you can do is, to me, the worst thing you can do in a municipality is nickel down your budget. You just can't nickel down your budget. If in the end everything works out great like it did this year, well, guess what? We got money available for next year to help with the budget.
Exactly.
You know, the worst case scenario is when you nickel and dime the budget, we'll pick on Dean. Let's say in the middle of the winter, the grader blows the transmission. There's no money in his budget. So that means he has to come to you guys. And I've yet to see, so he can come here with the best plan that he thinks of replacing the transmission. But I've never seen this happen the first time. I mean, where somebody on council says, well, Dean, I know so-and-so who I think can do that cheaper. A whole bunch of discussion, and normally council says, well, Dean, you gotta go check that out. So guess what? He's without a grader again. For how long? A month? 2 months? What's that cost? And if you nickel dime the budget, with that grader gone, you also can't afford rent in the interim. So it's coming to you guys again, saying, hey, I need some money to finance to rent, to you guys make a decision. So now you got, not only now you got to find money for the transmission, you got to find money now to pay for the rent.
So are you pumping his case up before he comes before us to ask for a new grader?
No,
Or a new
to be
trowel?
quite honest, that happened this year though. You know, I mean, we had to send our grader.
I was just kidding.
No, I'm just giving the scenario. We did have to send it out to get fixed in Pembroke there this year, and then we had the rent one in the interim, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't foresee that happen.
Yeah, so that's yeah, and then that doesn't like that. That goes for Bob. That goes for well, Dean's responsible for the landfill. That goes for Dean too at the landfill. You know, now landfill. We're lucky with the landfill in that we've got the discretionary reserve fund there that we can say, oh, no problem. We've got the cash. We can take it out of there. You know, all because of Stan Ernie up there. He was the guy who started that way back when. Okay. I had a summary here, but we basically talked about all the summary stuff with answering that question. I'll just I'm getting a little older, so I'll walk around here. I'll give you one of these too. This I've done this for years. This just gives a simpler, straightforward breakdown of some information that you guys need for
Yes, that's awesome.
for the budget process. So these are just a quick summary of just some areas that council should kind of have in the back of their mind during the 2025 budget process. So the first one is our taxes receivable analysis. And it breaks it down by current and 2 years, prior years of interest. So our total taxes receivable at the end of the year was 1.5 million. Our total reserves are 4.3 million. So if you look at that on a kind of cash flow idea basis, 36% of our reserves are cash flowing our taxes received. Okay, it's not revenue. Okay, we're not talking revenue here. We're just talking cash flow. Okay, It's the same as, again, we'll go back to a corner store. If you had a bunch of receivables in your corner store, you wouldn't have the luxury of the reserves. What you'd probably have is either overdraft protection on your bank, or you'd have an operating. Okay. One interesting thing on our taxes receivable, they represent 27% of the total taxes levied for the year, which is quite high considering that the Ontario average is 7.2% in 2023. One taxpayer in particular, who's in the tax sale process, represents 27% of that total. So just to realize the numbers there, okay? Any questions on that?
So, our percentage of reserves decreased from last year by 0.02.
No, our reserves increased.
Or, I'm sorry, the percentage of reserves in taxes receivable, you have is 36%, right, in 2024?
Yes.
Last year was 38%.
That's right.
Part of the reason that goes down is because our reserves have increased.
No, your taxes went up. Your taxes went up.
Well,
Your
that
taxes,
too.
your taxes went up less. Your reserves went up less than your taxes in total.
Because your percentage would change
Yeah.
because your reserves are at higher rate.
Yeah.
Okay. So next year, that number of receivables will increase by whatever the water and sewage is. I think it was, Charlene, correct me if I'm wrong.
337,000 at the end of December.
337. Now again, that's a point in time. So like, this was done December 31st. January the 2nd, it could be totally different because things change. And like today, things have changed since that point. So you have to keep that in mind. It's not fixed.
Exactly. It's a picture in time.
So you said water was 337 at the end of December?
Okay. Okay, so that's that one. But that, remember, that's just affecting your cash flow. Not affecting revenue or expenditures. It's just affecting your cash flow. Okay, and it's also not affecting you guys using your reserves. It's just a cash flow thing to point something out. It's a point out, okay? The next one is a reserve analysis. Little spreadsheet that shows the additions and the deletions during the year. So at the end of the day, our working funds reserve is 2.3 million. So that working reserve means that reserve is that there's no strings attached to that reserve. So you guys can use that for operations, you can use it for capital, there's no strings attached to that. The working funds Killaloo, the 63,000, that represents the surplus this past year in the area rate for Killaloo, okay? And that basically was generated because the expenditures, again, like everything else, just one of those years, and things all came in lower. One of the big things was in that was that Aqua didn't get as much work done as they had expected, and or they came in under budget on the stuff that they did come. And then depending on what Ashley said today, that has to be all kind of configured into the 2025 budget. The Commonwealth insurance reserve, that's totally allocated to the Killaloo pathways, because that's money that that was received specifically for Killaloo pathways and has not been spent yet. Had everything went as planned, that would have been zero this year, very close to zero. And I think Colton has in his budget, he has budgeted to complete all those projects and finance it with that reserve this year in the budget. So that'll be gone next year. And then we've got 484,000 in our road reserves, which is specifically for roads. We've got 10,000 in Killaloo hydro deposits. What that is when the sale went through in 2000, Ottawa River Power said they didn't want the customer hydro deposits back, or part of the sale. So at that time, Laura said, well, we'll put that into a GIC and it's there for when we need it for something. So we've got 10,000 sitting there. We've got 485,000 set aside for landfill closure, post-closure costs. We have $68,000 in our River Power Corp. That reserve represents the interest and the dividends that we receive every year on the shares from and the promissory note.
Can you remind me what we use that for, Ken?
That's usually kept aside for anything that's kind of required for in the village itself. At Capital Waterworks, we have 15,000. Our landfill closing costs, we have 305,000. Our capital fire, we have 123,000, which gives us 3.9 million in reserves. And then we have what's called our hydro reserves, is 399,000. But that, where that came from was that was part of the entry for when Killaloo Hydro was sold.
Capital fire, 123,000.
Yes.
Remind me what that is.
That's for the fire department. So if Bob needs to buy a new fire truck, it is for capital. So that's what it should be used for. It's for fire capital.
Tammy, maybe you can, for all of these additions that have been put in to the reserves, do we need something to be passed by council to forward those in, or are they just arbitrarily done? Okay.
The common practice now, okay, not speaking directly to your question, common practice now in most municipalities is that the surplus or deficit at the end of the year is either transferred to or transferred from reserves. That's the common practice now. I don't agree with it that transfer zero and out. I kind of believe that we bring it to the kind of closest $1,000 or something, and then you have it carried forward. But and as long as it's within the scope, also on top of that, also if it's as long as it's in the scope of the total budget, there's no need for a resolution. That's what you guys are paying your finance people for, to make those decisions.
I have a question. Where did the $65,000, the addition, where did that come from for capital fire?
From savings.
From savings, okay.
What kind of, what do you mean savings?
Savings within the fire department.
So like the fire was 65,000 under budget this year?
Yes. As we said before, I've had no structural fires.
But that doesn't show on the provisional budget.
Pardon?
That doesn't show on the provisional budget, right? That's another statement
But did you know that when you guys did the budget a year ago?
about the 65,000 being sitting there? No,
No, 65,000 being saved.
no,
No,
it's a secret.
no, it wasn't a secret. When you guys passed the provisional budget last year, you guys passed the budget based on what you knew. When the actual numbers came in, and you looked specifically at the fire department, fire department came in probably maybe even a little more. We rounded it it was rounded to 65,000 being put into his budget. Or into the fire reserve.
Because when we did the budget, we were budgeting for more fire calls, which is more manpower,
Yeah.
more time,
Yeah.
more everything.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the fires.
Yeah.
As an example of that, this year, last meeting I mentioned to you that last year we had 31 calls. Okay, and I said it's generally a little lower, around 40 calls a year. And I had the fire chief's first quarterly meeting, the first Wednesday in March last year. And I made a comment to them that at that point I only had one fire call, and that's the night before. Same time this year I've had 8 calls. That's what's hard to plan for.
Well, North Algona, we had 3 structure fires last year, so
Yeah.
this year, well, we've had one already, so, you know, you can't predict it.
Yeah.
Unless you're an arsonist.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like again, like you can't, like just, like you can't predict, like you do the best you can based on the previous year's actual and what you know that you, and the variables that you do know for the upcoming year when you set the budget. Like you can't, you can't, it doesn't matter how hard or how hard you work at your budget, you're never going to come in dead on in your budget. It's just not going to happen because there's way too many variables out there.
See, like on paper, according to this, it says fire department had a budget of 488,000. I'll just use rough numbers, okay?
What are you looking at?
Provisional budget. Okay. So on this provisional budget, it shows fire department 488,000, and then actual spent 517,000. But in that shows a depreciation cost of 135.
Yeah, okay.
And then reserve for capital of 65. So
But you gotta remember, you're looking, when you start talking that way, you've gotta remember, as I said before, about municipal accounting being complicated. You've got to, when you look at stuff like that, you've got to keep everything straight. That when you're comparing stuff, that you are comparing apples to apples. So as soon as you say amortization, you're now talking PSAP. You're not talking your cash budget. So right away quick, you're comparing apples to oranges.
yeah, that's
and not apples to
because
apples.
you're not budgeting for depreciation or amortization. You never budget that.
That's correct. That's why at the end of as soon as you guys pass the budget every year, that's why that's my first job for the new year every year is to convert. I have to convert your cash budget, which is mandated by you guys have to pass a balanced cash budget. That's ministry regulations. But my first job every year is to take that budget and convert that to a PSAP budget. Because that's the weird, wonderful thing about all this, is that they force you guys to budget on cash basis but the financial statements have to be on a PSAP basis. So then you've got to look and make sure that when you're comparing numbers, that are you comparing your numbers to cash, to your cash budget, or are you comparing it to your PSAP numbers? And there is a huge difference when you start talking that. And you've got to be very, very, very careful when you start quoting numbers, especially, I'll say it, I'm just the auditor, when you say stuff out in the public, is that you've got to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges, because there is a huge difference. Because in your cash budget, your capital is included in your cash budget. Your principal payments on your long-term debt is included in your cash budget. In your PSAP, when you start talking PSAP, all of a sudden, your capital now is on your balance sheet. It has nothing to do now on your budget, and your long-term debt payments are now no longer part of your revenue. They're sitting on your balance sheet now, and your amortization now shows up on your revenue expenditure side. Big difference. So you gotta be real careful, and that you're comparing, that you're talking the same thing. It's real important. Because you can skew numbers pretty good, you know.
Does anyone else have any questions? Or you were just finishing
Okay, so
the reserves?
that's the reserves, okay? Okay, we'll go quick.
Can I ask, are the road reserves, are they locked in as road reserves? So like we have 484,000 as road reserves. Is that locked in, or can we move that to other places?
Dean probably wouldn't like it, but my understanding is that as a council as a whole, they can make a resolution and move the reserves around. Now you might want to talk to Tammy, to talk to the municipal rep, for you guys, just to double check that still is possible.
And the reason I bring that up is because we've had conversation as far as not just roads, but other things or stuff, or whatever phrase you want to use, that might be of more importance than a singular road. So maybe we want to take some money out of road reserves to put it into another
Why
thing.
would you not use your working funds?
I don't remember those conversations, but maybe I missed that meeting.
Yeah,
But that's why.
do you want to chime in?
Well, I think we're talking about that, like
Well, assets.
fixing our assets with some of that money, like
Yeah,
using it for capital assets.
Yeah, so what you'd want to do is that would be, doing that would be down the list, okay? You'd want to use your working funds first before you start moving your capital reserves around. Because your working reserves, there's no strings attached to them. Okay, so why go to the bother of making a resolution and moving one capital reserve to another capital reserve when you don't have to?
No, I just wanted to clarify that. That's good. So then we know that, and because we have two funds that go into that, the OCIF and the gas tax.
No, they don't go there.
Well, They go into roads.
When you're talking OCIF and you're talking gas tax, you're talking obligatory reserve funds. You're not talking reserves. There's a huge difference there. Huge difference.
So our balance in roads is 484,000.
Yes.
So what made up that 484,000?
That's money that's been set aside over time into the road reserves.
So like if we're under budget by 20
Yeah, if you're under
grand,
budget,
it'll go into the reserves.
or in the
Right.
past,
Right.
former councils would say, okay, we know that Dean, well, you guys should remember this, former councils would say, Dean, we know that you need a new truck in 3 years. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put $50,000, we're gonna budget $50,000 this year to be transferred into reserves so that when you have to go buy that new truck, we've got $50,000 there.
Didn't do nothing.
So take for example, Tammy has done a preliminary budget. So there's been a number in the OCIF.
Yes,
There's a number in the gas tax,
yes.
which I think it's 305 in the OCIF and 78 in the gas tax. So under Dean's roads, she has that already plugged in as the road.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we go under that, that goes into this reserve.
No,
Not necessarily.
no. You see, you gotta remember, there's a big difference. Your OCF money and your gas tax money are classed as obligatory reserve funds, which means that there are stipulations put on them by third parties, which is diminish you. So you cannot, if you don't spend say you don't spend all your OCF money in a particular year, okay? Then that money has to stay in your OCIF reserve fund, not your reserves. There's a huge, you gotta be real careful here because it's a big difference.
So like there was two amounts that were made up of the 252,000. One was 100,860 and one was 151,640.
For what?
That went into this 252,500. And the one number was the difference between what Dean spent on Byers Creek and what was budgeted, which was.
Oh, yes, you're right there. Okay, now I know what you're talking. Okay, so
So that's why I'm having a tough time understanding.
Okay, so
If he's under budget, that money goes right to the reserve.
you got to remember. Okay, that when you guys budgeted last year for Byers Creek Road,
Right.
you guys budgeted it to finance the Byers Creek Road with OCF money, gas tax money, and road reserves.
Well, the only money that showed in the budget for road reserve, for budget for Byers Creek, was the accumulation of OCIF and gas tax. It was 360,000.
Check my copies.
Yeah, 360,000.
Oh, here we go. So last year, Dean, for Byers Creek Road, he had, it was, the budgeted amount was $360,000. And Dean, the financing for that was $265,856 OCF money, $75,771 for the gas tax,
Yeah.
and $18,373 from the roads reserve to give you $360,000 to finance.
Other than the 18,000, which I didn't include, but the 75, the 265
Yeah.
were the two amounts, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, we're talking the same thing. That's his budget. But I didn't include the 18,000.
Okay. So now you have to remember now, that 265,000, that's OCF money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that 265,000 is actual dollars from the government that's given to you guys to spend on specific capital projects that fall under the categories that they allow. So if we look at the gas tax for a sec, okay, the gas tax of $75,000, okay, Dean didn't need it. So that 75,000, because it's gas tax, okay, that has to stay in the gas tax fund. So the gas tax has its own separate bank account. So that's where that 75,000 goes. It goes to the gas tax fund. So that's why, like, when I was going through the financial statements, and I said that we didn't need that gas tax money. So that money goes to the gas tax fund, which is our obligatory fund. So we can use that money plus this year's money to fund capital projects. And I have on one of the next spreadsheets is a breakdown of the capital of the gas tax fund.
Okay. So technically, just for a summary, so we have 484,000 in road reserves, and this year we've got budgeted 384,661 as our road expense in our budget.
Okay.
So we add those two together to get our road budget.
Okay. Because traditionally, what's always happened here, and traditionally has always happened, is that because, as you've stated previously, in other conversations that we've had, that the roads infrastructure in the township is in bad shape. So normally what's always happened is all the OCF money and all the gas tax money goes to road capital. Okay, and then if we go the last page on my spreadsheets here. If you look at the bottom on that last page, at the top is the reserve fund environmental. And then down at the bottom is your gas tax reserve fund. If you look at that one, you'll see that what we were talking about, instead of just talking, you can actually see some numbers here, is that you'll see that at the start of the year, we had $95,000 in the bank, and that the reserve fund, remember we talked earlier about instead of 2 entries, we usually have to have 4 entries, okay? So we had $95,000 sitting in the bank. The reserve fund owed the township $67,000 at the beginning of the year for the gas tax that was used in 2023. Okay, so at the start of the year, every year, that money is transferred from the gas tax bank account to the general fund bank account. So then we paid the reserve fund has paid the township back. Okay. So then this year it works at the reverse, is that we didn't use any gas tax that we got. So all 76 almost $77,000 of the gas tax, of the 2024 gas tax, went into the gas tax bank account, okay? And we earned $4,200 on that too. So we ended up, we made $81,000 this year on gas tax. So guess what? In 2025, we can use that, if council wants, they can use that to fund capital projects, along with the 2025 gas tax allocation. Not bad, right?
Not bad. Good.
Can you just go back, Will, to the reserve analysis? And Dave, part of your first budget meeting, you had supplied, council and staff with the CA, part of notes of my CAO report. In there, you're suggesting that, a recommendation is that you move the OCIF to the roads reserve, which then would increase the amount to 790, and then continue to keep, so use all of that except for 100,000 in the road reserve, and then use the remainder of the 619,315 on the roads. And another recommendation was that you set up a reserve for recreation and move 78,927 into that reserve. Your second point, the reserve analysis, you provided for our information. And then you said the addition column you were going to defer to Will for an explanation. So I'm just thinking Will is here. And
What was that extra column? What was that extra column?
You just said the addition column, defer to Will for an explanation. Correct me if I'm wrong, you have taken 2023 and 2024, but you are then saying that the total reserve funds is for 2024 is 4.3 million, which is correct. Then you're saying that there's ones that are locked and you cannot touch, and that is like 1,336,340, which is a subtotal then of 2,998,732, which I'm assuming means that can be touched. Then less the tax arrears and less the water and sewage arrears. And I'm assuming that you're indicating that all we have to use for reserves is 1,112,895. So I'm not sure, again, like you said in your notes, the addition column, you're going to defer to Will for an explanation.
That was the additional column. So the addition, 322, 411, the 252, the 327, but he's gone through all that. He's gone through where those came from.
But we have more than just $1 million in reserves to use.
But the question I did have was, after we take out the block numbers, the lock numbers, the post closures, the closures,
Okay.
take that out, then you're left with 2 million, I think.
We should have more than that. You got
2.9.
If you got 4.3, you're only taking out 485,000 for your rental and 305,000.
Okay, when I took out, I had the number total reserve fund 4335072.
Yeah.
And then the lock numbers added up to 1,336,340.
What are you including in your lock numbers?
Commonwealth insurance, landfill post closure, landfill closing, capital fire, and hydro reserves.
You don't have to take hydro reserves out.
The 399,000.
You don't have to take those out.
We,
It depends on what your definition of locked is, too.
well, that we couldn't really touch. So that unless there's extreme circumstances to touch these.
The only time you're going to touch your landfill ones is when the landfill closures, that you're closing down your landfill sites. The Commonwealth insurance, that's part of your operations. Like it's not that it's not locked, but
it's destined for
yeah,
pathway.
you're going to spend that in
Pathway.
2025.
So every reserve has sort of limitations to it as, instead of your working funds. Your working funds is the township as a whole. KPP, where your Commonwealth insurance is tied to KPP. Fire is tied to fire, roads is tied to roads, but it doesn't mean you can't use them or that they're locked. It just means that if you're using the road reserve, then you're using it on roads. If you're using the Commonwealth, you're using it at KPP. But they're not locked that you can't use them per se. It's you can, but it has to be specific to the roads. Working funds is different. Working funds is for the whole township, so it can be used in something in Wilno, in Round Lake, in Killaloe. It can be used around, but it also has it's a council decision on what projects are going to be funded by that. And then you also have to realize that your reserves right now they're the savings within a budget to actual budget. So your OCIF is actual money in the bank. It's money that's given from the government to us. So it's actual money, and it shows up in our bank account. This working fund reserve of $2,355,897 is not in our bank account. It doesn't have a specific cash value per se. We have to have that money in the bank to cash flow that project. But it's not actual physical money that's sitting in our bank.
Right.
And then I don't know if we want to touch on this now or if we wanted to touch on it after lunch. But since Will is here, I would like to discuss the recommendation to remove the water and sewage out of the provisional budget and have its own budget on its own. If council would like to touch on that before lunch or after, I'd like to discuss that with the auditor here.
Let's do it right now.
Okay.
New chairs.
What do you need?
Right, well, I said we need new chairs. Nice.
What's in the budget?
I tried for 3 years now.
You got a softer one than me though.
Only got 60 more months to sit in this thing.
Okay, so first off, this report is being presented to council to assist in making an informed decision on whether to keep the water and sewer revenues and expenses within the provisional budget or to separate them into a budget specifically for water and sewage. The current process for budgeting water and sewage has been in place since 2000 and has been consistently followed without issue. At the time of amalgamation, Lorna, Sue, council, and in consultation with the auditors, aimed to streamline the budgeting process. The reasoning was that the municipality was not large enough to justify the time and effort required to create separate budgets for the general fund, capital fund, water, sewer, reserves, and reserve funds. Over the years, this approach has provided a stable framework for managing the financial aspects of water and sewage services. The current process has remained compliant with all relevant regulations. Additionally, there is no existing legislation or governing directive that suggests the current method is incorrect or does not adhere to legal standards. And this indicates that from a legislative standpoint, the approach is sound and acceptable. However, as with any process, council has the opinion to reassess and make adjustments if they deemed it necessary to improve transparency, efficiency, or alignment with broader fiscal policies. The special area rate includes the following pertaining to water: wages, benefits, owners, EHT, WSIB, materials and supplies, Aqua repairs and maintenance. The special area rate also includes wages as it pertains to recycling and household pickup, fuel, repairs, insurance, respective to the recycling and garbage truck, amortization, and sidewalk snow removal, in terms of wages, vehicle costs, fuel, insurance, maintenance, etc. The water rates cover the following: aqua, hydro, and the aqua contract. The sewer rates cover the following: wages, benefits, OMERS, EHT, WSIB, materials and supplies, hydro aqua repairs and maintenance, and the aqua contract. Revenues pertaining to water and sewage includes the water billing, the sewer billing, and the water and sewer interest and penalty. In 2024, the water and sewer budgeted revenues totaled $342,467, while the budgeted expenses amounted to $415,723. This represents 2.13% of the 17 tax levy and a 1% of the entire budget. The 2.13 was supported by the entire budget throughout the year, and during the end of year audit process, any items related to water and sewer are attributed specifically to the water and sewer rates. In 2023, 1.91 of the entire budget was used to carry the water and sewer expenses through the year, and again at year end, these costs were attributed specifically to water and sewer. Council has the option to either maintain the current process, which includes water and sewer revenues and expenses within the provisional budget, or to separate them into a distinct budget specifically for water and sewage. The decision requires careful consideration as it has a broader financial implication for the overall budgeting structure. If Council chooses to separate the water and sewer budget, the special area rate will also need to be addressed, as it is currently linked to various departments and expenditures within the provisional budget, including a majority of the water expenses, excluding the aqua contract and hydro. This means that any change to the water and sewer budget would also impact how the special area rate is calculated and applied. Once Council determines the approach for handling the water and sewer budget, they will need to decide how the funds for water and sewer services will be collected. One option is to establish a separate levy specifically for water and sewer services, ensuring that these costs are isolated from other budgetary concerns. Alternatively, depending on the decision regarding the special area rate, water and sewer revenues and expenses could be incorporated into the special rate, effectively pooling the funds with other services covered by the rate. This decision will influence how the community is charged for water and sewer services, the transparency of budgeting, and the overall allocation of resources within the municipality. So, well, I'm wondering in my second paragraph where I am saying that that the 2.13% is supported by the entire budget throughout the year for water and sewer, and during the end of year auditing process, any items related to the water and sewage are attributed specifically to water and sewer areas. Can you explain to Council how that's done?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. Basically,
so the question is the whole township, is Haggerty and Richards being charged for the water and sewer?
no, they're not. No, they're not. If there happens to be, worst case scenario here is that the whole township may be cash flowing water and sewer through the year. But as far as supplementing the water and sewer, they're not. Because a year-end, part of the year-end process is to take out the specific revenues and the specific expenditures for the water and sewer to come up with what the specific water and sewer surplus or deficit was. And as proof of that, that's how we come up with on page 17 and 18, which is your water and sewer financial statements. That's how those come up, are produced. is from doing that exercise.
So just to be clear, you're saying that it's only people using the system that are paying for it.
You got it.
Yeah. No one else in the township.
No one else in the township is paying for it.
So then, in your opinion, there's no need in changing anything. Like, we don't need to have separate lines. It's just gonna cost taxpayers more money in the long run and more work on the staff.
Exactly, Ted. Yeah. You're looking at what you're looking. Originally, when this was all set up by former staff, it was to streamline the whole process. You guys are the city of Ottawa. So you got Charlene and you got Tammy. You guys, and you got a 6 million plus budget. Do you really think? I'll boil it down to what you guys think. Do you think you need a separate budget for the general fund?
I don't.
Do you need a separate budget for capital? Do you need a separate budget for your reserve funds? One of the cost savings in the budget this year was the fact that council had less meetings. There's like as soon as you start wanting to separate out your budget, you're creating more work and thus more meetings. And are you accomplishing anything more? Worst case scenario in this whole thing is the township as a whole, may be cash flowing the water and sewer expenditures through the year. But that's a cash flow thing. That's not a revenue thing. Item. So if it was me and I was sitting in your chair, I'd be saying, just stay the course.
So Will, of the 17%, so the increase in the levy last year, did that have anything to do with the water and sewer expenses? So when council set the 17%, the water and sewer are already in the provisional budget as a revenue and expense. So of that, when council was determining the 17%, does that have any, how do I want to say this? Does that have any, yes, sorry, thank you. Does that affect the 17%? Like, so if council, let's say the water and sewer goes out of there, would council have had to increase the levy to 17%?
You might have been able to get away with a little less, but that being said, we're talking revenue and cash here again. So let's say it amounted to 1%. Let's say 1%. 1%. So all that really means is that at the end of the year, that the ratepayers may have paid, they cash flowed it, but at the end of the year, that 1% is coming back and is being used in the municipality for the municipality as a whole.
Can I show you my stuff now? Can you stick that in, please?
Oh.
It's my first time doing this, so hopefully it turned out. And then how do you change from slide to slide?
Sure, I can do that.
Oh, yeah, you go to presentation, just like slideshow, I think? No,
Present.
yeah. From beginning?
No, I want to be able to do it on our own, just to get the whole screen.
Okay.
There should be a present button somewhere, Tammy.
Under slideshow. Just click on that, and see what it does. There. Yeah.
So the first slide is, okay, this is a very important slide. So our actual taxes, which is taxes collected, which is on your provisional budget, and that amounted to $2,933,420.
Does that include the area rate?
No. Yes.
I'm sorry, just asking because
The sheet that I was given, this says 2.933.
I was just looking at the sheet, not to be argumentative, right? I just wondered, I've got a sheet here that I've done that compares our actual numbers to our provisional, to our budget, and on mine I have 2.8 million for 2023 actual.
Okay. So this one states taxes and special area rate increases based on the full year. These are approximate numbers. Does not include county and school board portions. And then at the top it says by heading 2024 tax includes special area rate, and 2024 actual based on 2023 tax rates.
Where did you get that?
I have no idea. From you guys. Anyways, whether it's 2.8 or 2.9, it's 100,000 difference, right?
Let's get 100,000.
Yeah. Yeah, she said yeah. So anyways, so 2.93, you divide that by 100,000, which is to get to our 1% rate, which is 29,334. So you probably heard me talk often about 1% is equal to 29,000. That's how you arrive at that. So the 496,000, okay, you can flip that now, is our 17% tax increase. So this was a sheet that I called adjustment to revenue. So our total revenue was 6.578 million. Our working reserves were 529. ORPC reserves were 30,000. Our 17% tax increase was 496. So I took those out of our total revenue in order to get the adjustment to revenue.
Well, why'd you take the 30,000 and?
Because that's what we used to balance our budget last year. The 30,000 was in there. So having said that, so our total revenue now is pure at 5.5 million, and our total expenses are at 6.5 million. Oh, flip the shape, sorry. Which is a difference of 1,056,000. Okay, which that was our starting point to determine how to balance our budget. So and this just adds to what I had said earlier. Our working reserves, we took 529, ORPC 30,000, and our 17% tax increase, which was 496. So that equaled the 1,056,000. So let's look at the sheet. Now, on this page, so the revenue, 5.5 million, which is what I showed you before, how we got to it. You take out the water, you take out the sewer revenue, you're left with 5.189 million. And then your expenses, you take out from the 6.5, which was our total expenses, take out those two expense lines to get to 5.915. So if you take 5.9 minus the revenue of 5.1, the shortfall would become 725 instead of the 1,056,000. Okay? So the next group is what we did.
Jane?
No, that's it. What we did was 1,056,000, and what we should have done was 725, which is a difference of 330,000. If we divide that by the 29,334, our tax rate should have been 6%. If you take the 1128 from the 17, did I lose everybody?
I think for this one,
Well, considering this first time you've seen the numbers, so
Yeah, no, I understand.
I don't exactly understand the thought process 100% on this, but there's a couple things here missing in your reconciliation, for sure. Just off the top of my head, without delving into this, like just looking at it here, okay, sort of. But start off with
Which page do you want to go to?
well, I'll just ask you, and you can maybe direct me and the rest of the people here. So, in your revenue, you're not including, or you're leaving the water and sewer interest and penalty. You're leaving it in the total revenue, which is really water and sewer revenue. You're taking out, in your expenditures, you're taking out the water expense of $442,000. Well, in that $442,000, that includes the SCADA project.
Yeah, and when we did our budget, that was included in the expenses.
Exactly, it was.
That's why we're taking it out.
But you were financing that $178,000 from your ICIF grant.
Mhm.
You haven't taken it out of revenue. So you're overstating your expenses and you're overstating your revenue.
Well, I'm going by what's on provisional budget.
Which is right, nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to do that, like I said when I went through the audit procedure about how many sets of eyes look at my numbers before I'm sitting in front of you guys, is the same thing here. Is that you've got to understand the numbers that you're talking about here. So you in your 442,865 expenditures for water, yeah, that's what you guys budgeted for, which is correct, okay? But up above, you've taken out only your water revenue and your sewer revenue, right?
Yep.
So why did you not take your ICIF grant money out of the revenue? Because if you're going to show all the water expenditures, you should also show all the water revenues.
So, hang on a second. So,
Right?
you said take out money from the OCIF?
No. You guys had a special ICIF grant to help finance the SCADA project.
Right, okay. Yeah, so there was 102,000 as a revenue.
102,855,000.
Right.
So you're not talking apples and apples here.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think what's happening, Dave, is you're taking the provisional budget at the end of the year when it's already been converted to a PSAP. So that's why all of your graphs are your information that you had given out with regards to your variances are all pretty much wrong, because the amount that's budgeted to the amount that was actually spent in that point in time has already been converted to a PSAP. So there's depreciation that depreciation was included in there. The capital was taken out. The reserves look like an expense at the end of the year. So all those numbers, what you're doing is you're taking the budgeted amount, which is not a PSAT budget. It hasn't been turned into a PSAT budget. Then you're taking the actual amounts that at the end of the year has been converted to the PSAT. So the numbers do not match. And that's where Will is saying you're taking oranges to apples.
Yeah.
They don't work.
Well, these numbers were taken last May when we did our budget, and our expenses were 6.5 million, and our revenue was 6.5, because we had a balance. So
At that point in time.
at budget time. So 7 of the 17 municipalities are represented by your firm, Will. So 7 of 17. 2 of our closest neighbors, which are represented by your firm, and that is Madawaska Valley and Bon Cheer Valley, do not include water and wastewater in their municipal levy.
It's an option. It's an option.
Well, the provincial government strongly recommends that water and wastewater not be included in the municipal levy. Together with
Wait, they're not in the levy.
Well, they are. I just showed you they are.
But those numbers aren't right.
I'll give you the fact about the SCADA, about the 102,000, but the numbers are correct. They're off our budgeted statement of last year. When we did our budget, those are the numbers. So municipal best practice is not to include water and wastewater in the calculation of the municipal levy.
And they're not.
Actually, the last meeting or the meeting before, Tammy made that term. She agreed with these items should not be included in the municipal levy.
I said it was a council's decision. It can be removed out. I did not suggest or I did not say that it should be, because that is not my decision to make. That is a council decision. My job is to provide recommendations, and what I did in my municipal report, I showed the way it works, and now it's up to council. I've given options, and it's up to council to decide whether or not they would like to remove it. But there is no legislation that says that it is required and that what we are doing is wrong.
Nope, didn't say that. Water and wastewater are self-funded utilities, meaning they are not tax-supported operations. There are some municipalities that have stated by bylaw that water and wastewater are not to be included in the municipal levy.
And that's their choice.
Right.
So that's council's choice.
And in the end, they're not. In the end, they're not.
Well, I'm talking, when we set down our 17% increase, they were. They didn't disappear. I believe that we charged our taxpayers too much money.
I'd have to go through the numbers.
Because I know there are people that have gone through the numbers and state the same thing I'm saying.
And who's that?
Yeah.
I'm getting fucking sick and tired of this shit.
Well, so am
You're
I.
coming all this time, you're always saying somebody. What is your credentials as an accountant? I don't wanna hear you work for BF Goodrich or whoever you worked for all those years. What are your credentials? 0, right?
I'm not degreed, no.
There you go. He is. So I'm going to listen to him and not you. I'm getting sick and tired of all this crap. You have it in everybody's head that we're ripping the fucking taxpayers off, and we're not. And it's time that you stop doing it. You're giving numbers to the paper, and he's printing them in Barry's Bay that nobody even knows what the numbers are. And you're getting everybody worked up. Like, I'm getting sick of this crap. Every meeting, it's over and over and over again.
Well, there's a problem.
Yes, right there in that chair is the problem. The voters that voted you in are the problem. Done with it.
Okay? So, do you want to check the numbers and get back to us?
I'm in the middle of tax season.
Let's just drop everything for Dave Mayville because Dave wants it done. I don't think so.
I think you gave us clarity in the beginning of this when we talked about how many of our departments didn't use the budgets that they were supposed to use, which is why we have this surplus. It has nothing to do with anything else. We needed to budget for 17% because that's what we were anticipating. We were anticipating roads to cost a lot more. We don't know, we've been so lucky we haven't had a forest fire here, like touch wood. We anticipate those expenses and then we don't have them. But that's what we base that. I know all of us hated to do that to our taxpayers, hated it. But we were confident at the time that that's what we had to do to balance our budget. And aren't we lucky that this year, maybe we can fix some things. Amazing.
Yeah, so you're right, Marie. Like I said before, everything kind of fell into place for you guys. And if you look department, like I said, that's where the surplus came from. It didn't come from over taxation. At least in my eyes, anyway. It came from just everything kind of fell in place for you guys this year, and then with us taking the at the end of the year, that part of the year-end process is taking the actually physically. I do the journal entries and physically take the water and sewer out of the actual numbers, and so then what's left is the municipality. At the end of the year, the water and sewer is not in the municipality. It's not in the provisional budget. And I can print you off. Well, I don't have one because I didn't bring my FIR file. But when I'm finishing the year end, this once we know kind of where everything is at, what I do is we print off a trial balance because I want to proof everything as I'm going through, and so my first step is I have a good trial balance. Then I physically, with the journal entry, take out all the water and sewer out of the GL to come up with what our actual surplus deficit is for the township. There's no other numbers in there. There's no other numbers in there. Like maybe I should have brought my FIR. I didn't think. but that's what I do, and then so that, then what happens is, so that I know then where things are all at, and then so that you guys have an easier time to budget than like in next year. What I then do is I reverse those entries to bring them back in, and then once I do that, trial balance shows me a new surplus deficit for the year. But I know that it's made up of, and this is after PSAP too, okay? Is I know with that final trial balance, which is what's, if Charlene went in right now and printed off the trial balance as of the 31st of December 2024, there's going to be a certain, there's going to be, your ending surplus deficit on that trial balance is made up of water, sewer, capital, and general, which correspond exactly to the financial statements. I don't know what more I can say.
Can I make a motion? Can we take a break, please?
We'll get back after the break, though. Are you still here?
I'm up here for today.
Yeah,
Oh, that's your bad.
is it?
That's your story. That's the other thing. I go just quick on back to the audit process. The other part of all this is I today, may not get to it now, is that I have to check subsequent events from 1st of January until today to make sure that nothing's happened and the numbers all still correspond to what these say.
My point, Will, is that these sheets are done based on how I created the 17% tax increase, how I got to the numbers. Okay? Council voted on taking this numbers out of reserve, this number out of to get to the 1 million. When we got the provisional budget, it showed $1 million difference between revenue and expenses. Okay, so we had to fill that with 17% plus those two items out of the reserve. So I'm just laying out what made out the 17%.
And how you guys came up with your provision budget.
So, but we can talk about more after.
Well, that's your provision, that's your budget. Like,
that's our municipal levy.
That's yours.
No.
You guys are charged with government. You guys are charged with government. Tammy, Charlene, and me, we're not.
I agree.
So the budget is your budget.
That's right, and we charged our taxpayers 17% tax increase. You're not responsible for that. We had to come up with the 17% because our documents showed us we were $1 million short on balancing the budget. We have to come to a zero balance. Okay? So how we plug that $1 million in is up on the board. And
But there's some numbers in there that are accurate.
I give you the fact about the ICF with the SCADA, granted, and I'll make that adjustment.
There could be one.
Let me know.
It's all, what are we discussing? We passed that last year. What's the purpose of looking at this? It's gone, it's done, it's over with. Right? It's done. What are we going to do about it?
I personally think you should concentrate more on
this year instead of last year.
On your 2024 actual numbers, so that you can make an educated 2025 budget.
Concentrate on our 2024 actuals.
You guys should be concentrating on your 2024 actual numbers. And knowing what you know that you're going to get in funding from OCIF and UNFA and everything that you do know, and base your 2025 budget based on that. The 2024 budget,
It's gone.
it's meaningless right now. It's meaningless because you got actual numbers down the road. So why not work with actual numbers?
Okay, are we going on break?
Okay, we'll break.
Long go.
Do we need an adjournment?
Christ, again, walk.
Oh, beautiful.